Hello and welcome to the deepest dive from MinnMax, the best, most thorough discussion about Batman Arkham Asylum on the internet. Number one, we're here. I'm Ben Hansen, everybody. Bryan Vore, formerly from Game Informer and also 2K is here. Hello, Bryan Vore.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Really well. And we have Kyle Hilliard from MinnMax.
Well, hold on. Bryan's best credit is that he wrote the cover story for Arkham Asylum, right? Didn't you?
That is true.
The Game Informer. I read that. That was before I started at Game Informer. That was a big deal for me reading that cover story.
It was a big deal for me writing it.
Probably a bigger deal for you. Yeah, yeah.
It was one of the coolest covers I did in my whole time there, and can't wait to get into it.
I want to unpack all that stuff with you. We're also very honored to be joined by Brandon Jones from Easy Allies. Welcome, sir.
Hi.
Welcome, Mr. Jones. I consider Easy Allies like MinnMax's big brother. It's very nice to look up to you. We model ourselves after you in so many ways. And specifically, I thanked you off air, I'm sure. But I cannot thank you enough for before we started MinnMax, in the earliest possible stages of MinnMax, when it was just a rough idea in my mind, I reached out to you probably on Twitter, and you were up for a phone call just to kind of share all of your advice about Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
And it was unbelievably gracious. I felt so guilty about every minute I took up of your time, but you were just here's all these tips.
About that.
And there were so many good pieces of advice. Like one of them that really stuck out is you're like, yeah, whatever you do, don't stay too close to Game Informer. You're like, don't call it, schmim-schmim-former, I think was your exact quote. Like, get completely far away. You'll regret not doing it now. Genuinely, I didn't have a name yet. And one of the ideas that I had is Fun Informer, that's too stupid. And it's I don't know. I don't want to be that much of a rivalry with Game Informer. So thank you for all of your wonderful advice back then.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, that's the beauty is we're all still, there's no right or wrong way to do any of this stuff, especially with crowdfunding. And so it's we learn from everybody, every time. Kind of funny at the beginning of this year, they just updated a bunch of stuff and I'm just voraciously taking notes. And even at the beginning, you were like, "Oh, just a heads up before we do this, our $10 above patrons, they'll be, doing our sound tests." And I'm like, "They're doing what now?"
Backstage pass here. It's pretty good because here's the secret, Jones. If a lightning bolt hits my house and my computer goes down, it's all backed up. It's all live. It's all stored on Google anyway. Having that YouTube backup is very handy for the raw stuff. But I want to thank you for Cup of Jones, which is one of my favorite podcasts. It's a Patreon exclusive, though, yes?
It is. Just for just a buck.
Just a buck.
The base. It's
an awesome behind-the-scenes look at all things Easy Allies. And do you still enjoy doing those? Is it weird are you used to monologuing at this point after all these years?
Oh, my God, don't shut up. Yeah, okay. I don't. This is not... That's the problem. And I had, my tag is Trailer Jones. That was my trailer scoring show for a while. And it's I have to put my name in everything that I do. So, this is all one big vanity project. It's going very well. Yeah,
I get it. What's life at Easy Allies like these days? What's the most exciting thing you got on the horizon or coming out now?
We're going to be 5 years old at the end of the month.
Holy cow. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, it'll be 5 years old. So we planned an in-person event last year. I don't know if you remember March of 2020.
Oh, what a sweet time.
Oh my God. We were we're going to do this big live event. We're going to hang out with our fans in person. It's going to be great. And then we were actually, no, let's not do that. No offense, our wonderful community. We're just going to hang out in our studio and we're going to do it there. Actually, no, we're all going to be in our houses, not knowing what the hell we're going to do for the rest of the year. That's going to be our celebration of our 4th year. So at least for this year, we can plan ahead a little bit and kind of know what we can do.
Yeah. What's a
little stressful.
What's the big plan then? Do you have a celebration in mind?
Yeah, just to do it just the week after the 21st. Haven't officially announced it yet.
Oh, sorry. Jeez. All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. Okay. This is the deepest dive on Batman Arkham Asylum. It is going to be very thorough. This is a time to get specific. It's a huge game club discussion about all things Batman Arkham Asylum. So this conversation is covering everything in the game up until you get the line launcher. We all stopped right there. So these comments that we're reading are all about that. If it's the first time playing, we're not going to spoil anything beyond that point for you. And if you're watching this, it's not too late to jump in. If this conversation reminds you hey, that game's very good, I should go back and play that, you still can. We'll be accepting comments and we'll read your comments on the show. If you support us at any tier at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, we'll have a post up on Monday Everybody knows that's Monday the 15th. Looking for those comments so you can submit a comment about the second half of Batman Arkham Asylum there, or just the game in total, and then we'll read it on the next big discussion for the Deepest Dive. And as always, if you want to unlock the podcast version of the Deepest Dive, you can support us over at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's as well. We'd appreciate the support because... Sorry, Jones, you're used to this stuff. If you support us at any tier, you can compete in Trivia Tower, which is our community trivia show. And the next episode, technically the second episode ever, is going to be going live on Monday, March 15th as well. So if you support us at any tier, you can compete in video game trivia to win game codes from Capcom, Bandai Namco, an Astro A50 headset. So it all takes place in the Discord. If you support us at any tier, you can compete in trivia, win fun prizes, and Daniel Dwyer is going to be the co-host on the second episode. So
nice.
Yeah, put your video game knowledge to the test on Trivia Tower. But this is the Deepest Dive, everybody. Let's not get distracted by that. So, Jones, the way this works is we collected a ton of community comments, and on the Deepest Dive, we always like to start out by trying to guess, have you all guess what you think the most common comment is. Out of the dozens and dozens and dozens and hundreds of comments, what was the most recurring sentiment about the first half of Batman Arkham Asylum, do you think?
Referencing the like cameos. Like, did you find all the cameos?
Okay, like Easter egg stuff.
Yeah, because they could be different. Like, my favorite was this. We're like, did you see Ratcatcher? Did you see Ratcatcher? Like stuff like that.
It's good. That's good. Not a single person mentioned Ratcatcher, but that's good. Bryan, Vor, what do you think?
Oh, I'm gonna guess maybe Mark Hamill's Joker just being great.
Very good guess, Kyle Hilliard.
I'm going to go visuals. Both good, both hold up, both don't hold up.
Okay. The correct answer is Bryan Vor. Basically, it was just performances all around. People talking about the voice acting was the #1 comment by far. Then it was like, combat in it, obviously. Riddler trophies was definitely up there. Scarecrow stuff was way up there. I was getting cocky going into this, though. I was so confident those were going to predict the most common comment. We're like, it has to be people writing in talking about the lax security in Arkham Asylum, right? I just figured everyone would have that comment about like, are they even trying? A headbutt is all it takes to start this huge chain reaction?
Right.
It doesn't add up.
Yeah, Joker like decks the guy and then starts like prancing around and it's like nobody's jumping him. Like there's
I mean, not to get ahead of ourselves here, but someone built an entire like underground building there without anybody noticing.
Yeah.
They're not great. Let's see. Enterada has a nice one here to kick it off. He says, I was very skeptical of this game when it was revealed and was on the cover of Game Informer. Thanks to Bryan Vor. When it released, I saw the Game Informer called it, quote, the best Batman game. I immediately went out and bought it. What were your all hype levels for the game before it was released? And when are they finally going to reveal what happened to Batman's parents? I don't want to spoil anything. That's for the second half of the Game Club, I think. Yeah, Kyle, hype levels. Where were you at for this thing?
Yeah, I was in a very similar boat. We'll get into it, I'm sure, but I love Batman. I read Bryan Vor's cover story, and I was like, this sounds amazing, but the track record for Batman is abhorrent. It's awful. I have no confidence in this game, despite everything I read sounding amazing. And then the thing that happened was a demo of the combat released on consoles, like in stores, and I was working at GameStop at the time. And I spent a lot of time just playing that combat demo over and over and over. And I got to a point where I was like, I think this thing's going to be something special. Like, and then I got really excited. Again, when the Game Informer issue came in, that was the first review that came out, was the Reiner's published version. And I was like, this is going to be amazing. Like, I was like easily my most excited, for a game that year, close to release, but skeptical at first, for sure.
I'm trying to remember what was out there. So the Batman Begins game, that would have been a couple years, 4 years before this or something like that. And then there was that rumored...
This was closer to Dark Knight. It was a year before the Dark Knight.
Right. And then there's that Dark Knight video game that... I forget, was it Pandemic working on it? I forget, but then that eventually fell through. But that was basically it. Is this you're coming off that Batman Begins legacy for video game world?
Yeah, well, just everything before that. I mean, Dark Victory, I think, was another one that had reviews like 2 out of 10 and stuff like that. Like, God. I actually will defend the Batman Begins video game. I think it was had some kind of fun stuff in it, but
for Super Nintendo.
Yeah, the Batman the Animated Series for Super Nintendo, I liked a lot. Right? That one was good, but
Vengeance, Rise of Sin Tzu was a fun beat 'em up.
Oh, that's right.
Lots of fun little combo abilities that they could do. And
the 3D realm of Batman was pretty rough for sure.
Yeah. Jones, where were you?
I probably beat that Batman Returns on Super Nintendo at least 300 times. Like,
No,
I loved that game.
It's funny that was like a seminal moment of my life because a friend of mine at school, I was like, dude, this Batman the Animated Series video game, you gotta play this. It's one of the best things because they made each level its own villain, which I always said. Ooh. We had a conversation a couple years ago where I said they should do that, right? They should have like a game where you fight. And he was like, oh my god. And I'm like, and it's kind of based on the comics, but not. Or it's kind of based on the animated series, but not really. Like you replay some of the episodes. And I would not shut up about this game. And he came over to my house to finally see it and was like, this game's terrible. And I'm like, no, wait. And he's like, if this wasn't Batman, you wouldn't be excited about this game at all. The combat's terrible in this game. And I lost it. I literally like went psychotic on him. And he was like, whoa, man, I'm just kidding.
I hate
And I'm not even kidding. That was like a moment that I made a decision that I'm not going to let somebody get me that upset again. Like over that video game. Like, that game will always, mark that point in my life where I was like, no. I will not be manipulated.
I hate that argument of like, oh, if you strip the license out, you wouldn't even care. It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just the way that it makes us feel. Like I remember arguing for Jurassic World Evolution. They're like, kind of sim game. We're like, I like that game. I had such a good time with the game. People are like, that's just because Jurassic Park's your favorite movie, you idiot. It's like, I guess it doesn't matter. Like on the receiving end, that game was very solid to me. But all right, I'll take it.
You can't separate the two, once they're together like that. Like a lot of those features never would have happened if it wasn't a Jurassic Park game or if it wasn't a Batman game.
Right.
The first Batman game I was disappointed by. I love the Sunsoft one for NES. But the first one I was really bummed by was Batman Forever on Super Nintendo.
I played it, yeah.
I could not. I probably paid full price for that thing, and I just couldn't make it past level 2. Just so boring, so annoying to play. Like it was. Fortunately, I still liked the movie, but good God, that game. It was in that era of Mortal Kombat where they would, take pictures of actors doing things and then animate those pictures. Ugh.
Weird deep cut trivia for you, Brian, is the programmer for the Sunsoft Batman 1989 game is the co-director of the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes.
What?
Yeah, I just looked it up for some weird trivia.
Terrific.
I don't get it. Sorry, but yeah, Jones, with Arkham Asylum, where were you at before this thing came out?
Oh, man. I mean, I think the main thing for me was that it wasn't based on anything. I was like, what? What is this? It's not a comic or something? They're like, no, it's just its own, game. And as much as I love Batman, I love anything gothic, so it's like why I love Gotham City. It's why I love one of the main reasons why I love Batman. But I remember doing a feature at Game Trailers where I dug up all basically like if you want to know about Arkham, here's all like the major themes of Arkham. And so like going in and reading all of that behind the scenes stuff and getting caught up on like the lore of actually, specifically even just like Arkham Asylum, which is a very disturbing comic, just like a very creepy one-off with lots of just really strange, creepy looking art. And so I just reading up on all that stuff, I was like, I am losing it. I'm so excited for this game.
Yeah, that was the thing. As I read Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum after this game came out, and I was expecting it to kind of be the basis for this adaptation. Then I read it, I was like, oh, this is a completely different story. I guess it's Arkham, and I guess, Joker's running the show. But outside of that, I was just struck by how abstract a lot of the visuals were. It was wild, Ryan. But Brian, your history with this game has to be the most unique here.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that cover story, so I dug these out, went through the boxes in my basement. This is the Joker version of Batman, and then, of course, the Batman version.
And the cool thing about that Joker
one,
in
that one, he's got that weird frown.
I always loved
he's angry.
The Joker cover because it was like blown up. There was a poster at Game Informer signed by Mark Hamill. And it said like jokingly yours, Mark Hamill. That's the coolest thing to have in an office. I love that so much.
So good.
He's so good with the fandom. Like he has such a good time.
It's just because he's a geek. Like he gets it. This is a very. I'm not comparing myself to Mark Hamill, but like I think of it in the same way as like I'm so glad that I'm a fan of other video game outlets and a fan of Easy Allies and other folks, just to like have that perspective, because I think it helps so much when trying to steer things for ourselves. I mean, not to get sidetracked on Patreon talk because it could go on all day, but like I always think of, I'm so zoomed in on all things MinnMax. It's so easy to forget about the people who are just supporting for the sake of supporting. Like Jones, I've been a happy supporter of Easy Allies for a long time. If you put a gun to my head, I cannot tell you what half the Easy Allies shows are about. Like,
oh yeah,
Hunting Huber, I could take a guess.
Sure.
I think I was on some show that Ian hosted. I still don't know what it was exactly. It's just, I love the podcast, and then everything else, like, yeah, it's great. I'll catch the thing here or there. Not even sure what the name is.
So many hours in the day, yeah.
Right. And it's just that weird thing of like, you just have to zoom out and remember there's so many people who are not going to get the message. It's impossible for people to be as zoomed in as you are. Okay, that's Patreon talk. That's not important. Okay, Bryan, I'm curious about what was like the earliest or like the first time you heard about Arkham Asylum, skepticism in the office. Tell me the whole saga here.
Well, this is actually one of the more interesting early pitches that we got at the office. It was just kind of I'm sure like Reiner and Andy got a bigger, Andy McNamara got a bigger heads up on this, but it's one of those things where it's like, hey, anybody want to come check out this new Batman game? We have somebody here to show it off. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go look at it. It was Carl Stewart from IDOS, and he was shooting for a cover, and it's rare that the people bring like game code out of the office to begin with, but to like come to us and show it to us. We were all a bunch of us the comic nerds kind of sat down and were ready to check it out. And he's like, okay, where's Andy McNamara? And Reiner's like, oh yeah, he had to go and take care of a thing, so he's not able to check this out. He's like, oh, all right, well, I guess we'll just go. And the demo that they showed us, I mean, I'm sure there might be some rose-colored glasses here, but it's the absolute beginning of the game where Batman's taking Joker to Arkham, and like it seemed like they had that just like perfect ready to go. The only thing that wasn't there were the final like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, voicing. It was just like all temp voices. But even setting the tone from that, I mean, I'm sure when you guys first fired up the game, like seeing that for the first time, you're just like, oh my god, they've got all the character notes right. I'm so excited, and it was basically what the final game kind of looked like. And then they kind of showed off like combat and the Predator, like it was very in depth with the kind of thing, and like we were all just like, oh my god, because we had all been very skeptical of Batman games, just like everyone else in the world,
especially an IDOS game that was published by some studio called Rocksteady. Like,
yeah, who the hell are these guys?
Who are these guys?
Urban Chaos. Urban Chaos.
And like
Urban Chaos.
We were trying to think of like who in the office even played that for review. Like, so a bunch of us were just like totally blown away by the time the demo was over. We were so excited, and then Andy gets back from his appointment or wherever he was at, and we kind of like, hey, Carl, why don't you go, hang out with, some of these other guys. They'll show you around the office and blah, blah, blah. Andy's like, all right, how was it? And we're like, dude, it's so cool. Like Joker's, on the stretcher and blah, like it's like Silence of the Lambs, and the mood is awesome. And he's like, I don't know. I just don't trust it to be good.
Oh,
so
God.
I think actually no, Carl left, and I think we had to like have him fly out again or something to do the whole demo again for Andy McNamara. I can't exactly remember if he had to fly out again or if he was like already on his way to the airport and had to come back. Like there was some like major production to get him to like do the entire demo again for Andy.
Just because the skepticism was so extreme about a Batman game.
Exactly. And he's not like a diva or anything. He was just
right.
Was not convinced, no matter how excited we are, because there's a lot of comic book nerds in the office, and he's like, oh, maybe you guys can't see through it or whatever, you're too, like Reiner, you're too close to comics, you love them too much. I don't know.
So did you fly out to Rocksteady then for that first cover story trip?
Yeah, so Andy was definitely convinced.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do this. So I ended up getting the assignment and flew out to Rocksteady's offices. I did send you a picture from the visit just before we started recording. I don't know if you want to check it out or use it in any way.
Sure.
It's us in front of a bunch of like urban chaos art with Sefton Hill and baby Sefton. We were all very young way back then in 2008. But yeah, we got the go ahead to go check it out, and it was great to kind of see it, even more polished form.
Yeah.
See more of the game, and just like, my God, it was so cool.
Yeah. And I went to Rocksteady with you for the Arkham Knight cover story trip, and then we also, I guess, we're on the Arkham Origins cover story trip to Montreal for that one. It's fun to, see inside those two different studios, each making Batman games. Did you go on the Arkham City cover story as well then?
Yeah. It was kind of nice, like visiting Rocksteady every few years and just seeing like how small the office was, the first visit.
Yeah.
And how much it was just like, here's an Urban Chaos like painting, and here's all the public facing stuff. And then you go back there and there's like, kind of a small area with a bunch of, the whole team working away on stuff. And then you come back for Arkham City and it's like, yeah, we kind of blew out this wall and now we have these people here. And by the time,
we sprayed a bat-shaped plastique kind of thing here and stood right next to it and blew it up and just kind of turned our head and we were fine.
Not to interrupt, but like, I love that he bothers. Nobody knows that it's shaped like a bat signal.
I know.
Like, no one's around.
In case
it's just
anybody glances.
I love Batman doodling. It's just like one of my favorite things. Like,
consistent doodling.
Yeah.
He's like, always on brand.
Awesome.
And detonate.
He doesn't want anyone else to get credit for that exploded wall.
Let's see. Oh yeah. But do you have more?
Yeah. By the time we were back for Arkham Knight, like the place, it's like they took over the huge building. It just seemed like they had everything. And each time, like that first time, they were very much like had to spend a lot of time battling to kind of prove why what they were making was good and like people should pay attention. And then by 2, it was like, okay, now we have to sell this open city concept. Like, we were just getting started with the first game. And then the third time, it's like, how do we top that big open city thing that we added in, but it was cool to see how the studio matured and all the advances. Like, there was no reason, like in the first game, there was every reason to doubt them based on, the history of Batman games. And like, no one really, there's not, with their first game, it's, to be honest, I didn't really ever end up playing it, but I don't know if you guys tried it out.
It seemed like it was like Sevens.
A big reputation.
Yeah.
But by the second and third game, they never seemed to like, give up that, I guess, kind of striving and for success and like trying to like reinvent the wheel all over again and do something super crazy and innovative. So it's a very rare studio that I visit where you can just come away super impressed every time you see something new from them. Yeah.
And the crazy thing too, we had an interview not too long ago talking with a couple folks who are at Rocksteady who are making a new game called Trials of Fire. And they reminded me about this basic idea that I forgot about, which is they made Arkham City in 2 years. Like, to go from this game to creating an entire open world and one that is that good with 2 playable characters that both feel good in 2 years is mind-blowing. So you can check out that interview on our channel if you want to learn more about how they pulled that off.
That's insane too. But like, even though Asylum is smaller scale, like they created like a combat system that is like was emulated for years afterwards and how to deal with like crowd control. They invented that Predator like stalking system from scratch in like 2 to 3 years. I mean, and then, figured out how to make Batman's detective segments cool. Like all 3 of those major huge systems and like an interesting storyline to wrap it all together and a way to like bring all the villains together that doesn't feel forced. Like,
yes,
it's a miracle. Like everything they did.
It's really wild. Yeah. I mean, I am playing this game for the first time. Like, I've started it so many times, but always fell off for reasons we can get to. But playing through this now, it's just, that is my overwhelming thought, is like, how did Rocksteady do this? Like, the game does not need to be this good and this creative. It could be half the game that it is and people would still be gaga over it. But at every step, it just feels like it's going above and beyond, which is mind blowing.
Well, I think the thing that makes me so happy, that resonates so much even after all of these years, is not only do all of these systems that they created fit Batman so well, they fit Arkham so well. Like they fit a specific, like they had to take these Arkham principles and like stretch that out into the city. But just going through and finding all these little Easter eggs and being on their turf, like really feeling that like I am kind of behind enemy lines here. Like all the systems that they built are just so perfect for that.
Yeah, and it's like a great lesson, I think, in just scope. Like we're going to make a Batman game. What is it? It's just Arkham Island. Like, let's just focus in on that and making that as polished as possible, because it's so easy to have this thing spin out of control, which they maybe have gotten into a little bit with Arkham Knight, but there's a lot going on in Arkham Knight. But, we should definitely mention that, there's been plenty of reports pouring out that it was not a great studio for women to work at. And we talk a little bit about that in our interview. And so it's worth acknowledging that, yes, it's an incredible game. Within the studio for different people, not ideal in a lot of different ways. So definitely worth acknowledging where this game came from in that way as well. Poor Frisco submits a comment saying, "How are y'all playing this game?" Very simple question. I'm playing on PC and it looks surprisingly good. The cutscenes are a little bit rough, but where's everybody else playing it? Like Kyle, where are you at with this thing?
I'm playing Batman: Return to Arkham Asylum on the Xbox Series X. That's what the title screen says. It has the word Arkham twice.
Yeah, it's a long.
But it's great. It runs really well. It looks great. I haven't noticed disparity in the cutscenes, so I guess that's the remaster technically.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, there's cleaned up, re-exported or something like that. But yeah, Jones, what about you?
I played on a couple different things. I played on PC for a little bit, and then I was just curious to try out the that Return to Arkham, because I remembered after an hour or so, I was like, wait, there's this new version of this game that I never checked out. And so it was interesting playing through the intro, and then Batman is so detailed in the remake, and every random cop you jump into is same guy. It's literally same face, same eyebrows, same hairstyle, same
He just knows a lot of shortcuts. He's running under the vents or something in Arkham,
and it's so
they
colorful.
They zoom in on the face so much. Every time you talk to one of them, it's look, it's the same guy. He can't even mask it. So, go ahead.
But I'm on PlayStation 5, but I'm sure it's pretty similar to the Series X version.
Yeah,
it was tricky for those. I'm sorry for those that want it, or I'm on a PlayStation 5 and Series X. I don't know if it was in the Series X store. It was not in the PlayStation store when I first went to the PlayStation store. I'm like, yeah, let me get that remake, and they were like, it's on PS Now. I'm like, I am not playing this on PS Now, and I'm like, the remake, and I couldn't remember it was called Return to Arkham, so I had to look it up. I had to go in the PlayStation app, buy it. And then I could have booted up my PS4, but it was just it's in storage. I think it's in our office or something. And I was so I had to bought it on the app, and then it was in my library. And then my PlayStation 5 was like, oh, there it is. So I'm like, yeah, thanks. Okay, now I can download it on my PlayStation 5 and now play it. So if you run to the PS Store on your PS5 and don't see it, that you either go to the website or go on your app or boot up your PS4, buy it on there, and then you can download it on PS5.
Yeah.
Hoops, that sounds needlessly complicated.
Worth it.
I also did the Xbox Series X version. I coincidentally bought it either Black Friday or over the holiday sale. Got the whole collection for a hot deal. But yeah, I didn't even know that this kind of thing would be coming up, so it was a good coincidence. Mm-hmm. But Hanson, was yours just branded as the original version? Or
it was
also?
Yeah. I was looking for that remastered thing, and I thought that if you had it on Steam, you got it for free, but I didn't see that anywhere in here. So I think this is just the original, as far as I can tell. I don't know.
Maybe they just thought on PC your frame rate's probably already good. They probably have higher textures in there or something.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. But Kyle Silva. What's that, John?
It's a good looking game. I just watched, because I'm sure there was so much I missed. So I watched a playthrough on 2x speed just for fun to be oh yeah, there's that Easter egg I just walked right past. I totally forgot about that. And that person was playing on an Xbox One X, the 360 version, but enhanced, and it's gorgeous. It's the style that they went for, still holds up. I mean, they're making a fifth game, which is pretty much in the same style. WP Montreal. So.
It's true. Victor Fan
one thing
here.
To note,
the
original was in Unreal 3, and then they ported it all to Unreal 4 for this remastered Return to Arkham version. So
weird.
They were able to kind of add a bunch of different little effects and things.
Okay.
But I don't know if they were. I think it's yet to been unlocked frame rate and all that stuff. I think for the new consoles. At least that's because I was trying to look it up and find where's the best place to play it, and what should I look for. So unsurprisingly, a super old game. WB's not super invested in like investing a bunch of money into like to like snazzing it up.
Yeah.
If you happen to buy it in the year 2021.
This is why we got a bunch of bad Batman games. This is the respect.
This is it. That's what we're used to.
All the work he does.
That's how we treat him. Victor Pham here submits a comment asking, how does everybody feel about the visual look of the game over a decade later? Personally, I'm not super fond of the big, bulky look of nearly every male character. It really reminds me of Gears of War, and not in a good way. Everything's
like
pretty...
Unreal muscle. Like, is that sort of that year? Is like everyone just got like bulked up and veiny. And it works for Batman, but then like random guard who's like super bulky and like a Gears of War soldier, I'm like, you could probably be skinnier, dude. You know?
Yeah, Kaiju Will here pointed out that even Commissioner Gordon is just ripped. Like, what is happening here?
What's up, he's even his mustache like has been lifting weights.
He's like the Vince McMahon of Gotham.
The only thing is, like, this is almost every video game, but I think it especially pops with just Joker's design and how wrinkly and how many layers are on his face and all that stuff. But like the jittering of shadows is still, I don't know, maybe in the remaster they cleaned this up, but it's always like, especially in those weird angles on his face, it's just like it's dugga constantly popping around. But that's just kind of unreal of that era, I feel like. Yeah,
I didn't know. I don't know about you guys, but in the remastered version, I think they maybe cleaned some of those shadowy jitters up.
Okay.
Did you guys find that?
I haven't noticed that.
Oh, nice. Kyle Silva here is playing in the most unique way. If you're playing in a more unique way than Kyle, I'd like to hear it. So he says, it turns out that a streamable version of the Game of the Year edition is included with my subscription to PlayStation Now. Furthermore, the Game of the Year edition includes a red-green 3D option that works on any television. Naturally, it meant only one thing: stream this game in 3D wearing a pair of 3D glasses. He says,
I think I had the collector's edition of the game that came with the Batarang, and I think I remember 3D glasses being in the insert.
It's a weird world. He said articles at the time disapproved of the game's 3D effect, but I find it quite fine. The biggest issue with playing this game in 3D is that the colors are completely dulled out, almost in like a virtual boy fashion. Say goodbye to the Joker's iconic green hairdo, as now it's a reddish tint. That sounds terrible.
It's a Red Hood reference.
I think so.
I applaud for them for continuing to play it this way, like all just committing to it.
Streaming 3D in red and blue glasses. Bryan with the Y also playing the exact same way. He says he really likes it. He says Batman feels further away from his surroundings. It gives you the feeling that you're walking down the narrow corridors of the asylum or staring at the impossibly high ceilings of the mansion. It is extremely effective during the scarecrow sequences and not noticeable at all during combat. It's very immersive for such an atmospheric game, and I plan to play it in its entirety with the red-blue 3D glasses. I love that.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, we're probably not going to be diving into that too much, but Batman VR is fantastic. If you've never gotten a chance to check that out,
I never did.
Rocksteady
it's
did.
Fantastic.
Oh, hey, whoa, sparks are flying. Hey, watch it.
Well, let me put it this way. These Arkham games like to mess with your head, and there's some fun stuff that they do where they mess with your perception. It's one thing to like, you know, oh, there's Clayface being one person, and then like, oh, there's Clayface again being another person.
Right.
When you're moving an analog stick, when you actually move your head and like, Joker's right there. It's like, cool.
Yeah, Kaiju Will has a question here. We'll just give it to Jones. How would you rank the entire series, including Batman VR and Origins?
I mean, you know, Batman VR would be at the bottom just because it's not that long. It is certainly unique, but I would not tell someone to play it over any one of the other games. It's funny. It's like there's always the great franchise battles of all time. Your Final Fantasy VI versus Final Fantasy VII, Link to the Past versus Ocarina of Time. Mm-hmm. And I remember at game trailers, the Asylum versus City crowd was volatile, man. Like we could not. I think we made like 4 or 5 videos just based on that. I lean a little bit towards City just because, like, as a big open world fan, I was so hungry for that concept. So I just, I put City on top, and then probably Asylum, and then Night, and then Origins. Although Origins is great. Has one of my favorite Joker moments in any medium of all time. Really, really great. Huh. But it is a spoiler, so I don't want to.
And
it's fun.
Blackgate, where you putting that weird thing?
I never played Blackgate.
I went back.
I did not hear good things about it, so I never checked it out.
Yeah, the Steam reviews are not kind to Blackgate, which is the game that was really exciting. Because remember, we learned about that, Bryan. We went on the cover story for Origins. It was like a double header of Blackgate, the Vita, and just DS. Wait, was it on DS or just Vita?
I have a feeling it was on a Nintendo handheld.
Was it? Anyways, I forget. They
Maybe it
eventually
was
ported
3D.
it.
I don't know.
But it was so exciting because at the studio in Montreal, they had the game's director, who was also the director for Metroid Prime. It's like, what?
Yeah,
the director of Metroid Prime is directing this like Super Metroid-inspired Arkham game? Just take all my money, please. Didn't quite stick the landing. It's kind of a bummer to see.
I remember trying it. Maybe I just tried it out there, but I don't know why I didn't like. I guess I didn't. Must have not have heard good things or something. But yeah, I feel like I should go back and play it now that you brought it up.
It's
Just
definitely
one reference. Now I feel like guilty about not playing it.
yeah, do it right. Got to give some love to Armature. Zach Eink writes in, he says, this game is so good and it holds up surprisingly well on my Xbox 360. Yeah, I mean, visuals aside, even I think design-wise compared to most other games from 2009, like this game really is aging well, much better than I was expecting overall here. Because like, let's set the scene for 2009. Let's put ourselves back in this mind space. You got Infamous 1, Prototype 1. Like we all like those games, but I think going back to play Infamous 1, like it'd be pretty rough compared to how smooth Arkham Asylum is here. Uncharted 2, Modern Warfare 2. Chinatown Wars, Borderlands 1, Wii Sports Resort, of course. Jones, we got Final Fantasy 13, Scribblenauts, Ghostbusters, the video game. Big year, but I mean, I think this thing is aging really well. Oh, sorry, I forgot the best game of the year. I'm sorry, Arkham Asylum. It's Beatles Rock Band. But hell of a year for games. But I think this thing, just something about, maybe it's that scope again, and maybe it is just everybody taking so many elements from this game for other games, but it feels like it ages really well.
Well, there's so many details in it. Like you can actually like walk up to a poster and like read it, and there's something that it's saying. It's not just like a for a third person game that's pretty rare. You usually find stuff like that in like a BioShock of the era, or like a first person shooter where like your perspective is already zoomed in. But to like find, like an Easter egg something, or like I remember the first like cell that I found, I was like, oh my god, like
that's Calendar Man cell.
No game does this. It's like they don't even like Spider-Man, like the PS4 Spider-Man and Miles Morales, like fitting in all of these different nods to these other characters, and not in like a cheeky weird like what the heck is they doing way. Like it totally makes sense that you're in Arkham. That you're finding him like, it's like, Two-Face isn't in the game, but like this is his cell. And like, it just, I don't know, it gives them a presence that makes the world so believable.
Yeah. Rory Sublet here submitted a comment saying, I really love the restraint with characters the developers have shown so far in this first half of the game. We're in Arkham Asylum. It's full of Batman's rogue gallery. They could throw anybody at us for boss fights, but they've only used Scarecrow and Bane and Zaz only to teach us some gameplay mechanics.
Teased some others, but yeah.
Right. But it is nice. Like there's been a quick reference to Two-Face, but I love just that narrow focusing down of like, it's a weird world, but all you got to really worry about is Joker, and then Harley's on a bunch of little missions as well, at least at this point.
Yeah. It's cool to see, like you're saying, just the references, because then it's like, they're not like, you're not just like, oh man, I really wish there was something about Two-Face, or, the little puppet man, I forget what his name is right now.
Scarface, right?
Scarface, yeah. Like it's like you still like, okay, well at least I got to see like a sketch of what he would like look like in this world if they did utilize them. It's cool just to have that all built out.
Yeah, Joe Halaska, I guess, kicks it off. We should talk about the start of this game. He says, the opening to Arkham Asylum with Batman escorting the Joker is one of the best openings in all of gaming. It puts you right in the moment and you immediately just get hooked into the story. I'm inclined to agree, especially because I've seen it so many times now because I've started this game so many times, but it's still awesome. Yeah. It is just like the credits coming up as it's all happening. I realize now, it's just because we all love Silence of the Lambs, but still, it is so effective for just getting you in there.
Well, also, for me, like playing it now, I was like, I think a less confident studio might have made the opening like the Joker boss, like a Joker fight, right? That would have been the tutorial, and like the fact that it starts with you having already captured Joker and he's in the car with you, like I don't know, I love that. I love that it starts slow and it just sort of like lets you sort of breathe everything in, and like Batman's like, look, I already took care of this big thing. Like, we didn't need to start with a bang. We can just walk in here kind of slowly and explain what's going on. I really appreciated it this time around.
Yeah, Brendan Brett quickly on that note, he says, Batman being referred to as Bats by Joker and B-Man by Harley Quinn is so engaging and gives a strong sense that all these characters have a real history with each other. And I think that comes across in that opening as well. We don't need to set up who these characters are out of the gate, but just it feels like you're hitting the ground running. And a lot of people are okay with that because we all love the animated series. Like, yeah, I know exactly what these characters' relationships are. Like, even later on, I love the scene where Batman first encounters Poison Ivy in this game. And it's not like a Poison Ivy, what are you doing here? She's just immediately like asking for something. He's like, I don't want to rescue your plants. Like, I don't have time for this right now. It's just, I just love how casual it is. I think they've encountered each other thousands of times at this point.
Well, the character profiles do so much lifting for that, for the people who are like, wait, who is this guy? I don't know, or someone who may not know who Poison, if that's possible.
Right.
Like they can read that and be like, okay, this is their history. This is where they appeared in the 50s in the first comic here. And like, this is how much they weigh. Like, I guess I want to know that for some reason.
They're also brief enough that like, I mean, even now I'm reading them, even though I'm like, I know a lot about Batman, but it's like, it's not like Control, where it's like, I bet there's a lot of good stuff in all this text, but I don't want to dig into it. Where
Just
here it's like brisk enough.
Can't deal with it. Yeah, no, it's good because it serves for people who are absolutely Batman ignorant, like nothing to know about it, but also like Batman experts, because it's like, wait, I know who the Riddler is, but I don't know who the Arkhamverse version of the Riddler is, and they can kind of set their own canon in this world that they've created. Yeah,
I mean, you shouldn't rule that out. I mean, a lot of people wrote in, like Lachlan Belford here, saying that this was his introduction to the Batman universe. I think there's a lot of people, especially, I mean, you got to remember the time and the place, like we mentioned, like Dark Knight being huge. If you're kind of a little bit too young to see Dark Knight in the theaters, then maybe like a year later, you can maybe get by playing this game, even though you probably shouldn't have been. But I bet it was a lot of people's introduction to all things Batman.
And shout out to Croc in the opening. Like that's such an engine flex too, of you just really him slowly coming in. The light turns on, he turns, like looks right at you. It's right after they tell you you can zoom. They're like, right thumbstick to zoom in, and you're just like, like stare, and Croc just looks right in your eyes. It's like, oh, they get you. And I think I remember like going through, and as a Batman the Animated Series fan, I was just like, my mind was exploding, because I'm like, Dini wrote it. It's just Paul Dini just wrote this. This was just him. Like, I already did all of the animated series stuff, but let's start over. Let me just do something else. And it was such a fun villain to start with, and be like, this is a different Croc. Like this Croc could eat the Croc from the animated series. Like he literally is just 3 stories tall, and so it was such a. Not only was it cool for him to be introduced, and like how scary he was. There's a couple other teases later on of you like seeing him before you actually like get to maybe fight him later. I don't know. But I also like the procedural nature of Arkham itself. It's just like, wait, hold on. It's like a bus going through. It's just like, wait, we got to wait here because we got to clear this elevator and then we can go in.
It makes me laugh so much, though. We're saying it goes into that whole idea of the asylum just being a mess security wise. But like, they're like, okay, wait, we got to have Croc come out of this. Meanwhile, like the Joker is just right there, and Croc has like handcuffs on. He's just walking right by the Joker. Like, are you kidding me? Like, even if you're worried about the Joker's safety, don't let him next to a giant crocodile, for Christ's sake. Like, if they're
understaffed, dude.
I guess so. But Brian Vore, God forbid, if you ever went to prison and just as you're being entered into the prison, everybody around you kept referencing, not going to break out of this prison. No way you're getting out this time, buddy. Odds are pretty high you're going to get out of that prison. It's just a weird thing to say repeatedly when you're bringing somebody into a prison.
Yeah. And you have the skepticism of, like, this Batman's kind of echoing the fan skepticism, too, of like, all right, Joker, why was it so easy to catch you this time? Like, why do I already have you in prison right now? Like, what's really going on?
Just bring him to any other prison, like across the entire United States. It would be so much safer. You're not pot committed to Arkham Asylum, Batman. Come on, man. But I loved, by the way, real quick, Patrick Henderson totally agrees with you, Jones, on Killer Croc. He's talking about how much he loved how intimidating he was.
Nice. And a thing we don't necessarily see. We see Joker going out a lot, in comics and the films and stuff. But like the actual processing, coming in is a very interesting, is a new thing, for 2008 to introduce something, with Joker and Batman and Arkham that we hadn't seen before.
Love
clever thing to start with.
For sure. I love that shot. It's when they're in the elevator and the lights go out. And it's like, well, this is it. I guess this is how Joker gets out. Lights come on. Batman just has his hand on his throat. You know, like it was a millisecond when those lights went out. Like, nope, not right now. Love that. That's so fun.
He's very smart, the Batman. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's true.
Yeah, and I guess that might have been a mistake because like Joker laughs when it happens. Like I could totally see Joker with all the stuff he has planned to be like, oh, really? You're having a blackout right now? This is perfect. You know? And I like when they get scanned. It's like right after they tell you can zoom in and they're like, oh, we got contraband. And Joker's like, it's not me. You know, like I don't have anything on me. They're like, no, it's Batman has like, 25 weapons on him. And I think like the developers, Rocksteady really knew you were going to be looking at the Joker at that time. And Joker just kind of turns and he's like, what'd you bring in, Batman? It's creepy. It's creepy in a third person game to have a character look, right at you.
And I think this game in a lot of ways is smarter than I was expecting. Like on those little beats like that, like I love that the guards are talking about like, they let Batman pass security. Like it's like casting more doubt, I think, on just the character of Batman and who he ultimately is. I think they carry it forward later on when Joker's doing a lot of, I'm insane. Or what is his line? He has some line where he's talking about like, I can't tell what's real and what's not. And now look at you. And I'm insane and I'm outsmarting you. So what does that make you? Like those types I love just immediately out of the gate in the first game, even just really questioning Batman's psyche in a way that I wasn't expecting. I thought that was like all for the Arkham Knight stuff, Let's see. Brendan Reagan. Oh, real quick before I get to that. I also just love that idea of when you're like behind the glass and watching Joker down there during this entire buildup, because I know how satisfying the combat is. I felt like I was as eager to punch somebody as Batman is all the time. I was just like, let me in there. Let me punch these idiots, please.
I'm going to hit the Y button so hard when that lightning bolt shows up. You're not going to see it coming.
Let me at him, Gordon. You have no idea.
And I think they did a good job with Joker because Joker kind of chides his, thugs every now and then where he's like, oh, come on. Like I gave you a shot. You were in there alone with him. You couldn't do it. But I don't get the vibe that Joker like expects them to stop me. Like that's not really Joker even says at one point, he's like, just rough him up, but I need him later. Like there's some stuff I'm going to do later. I definitely want him to see. And so like, I imagine that could get really tiring over, it's just like, my henchman failed again. That's very like 60s television show. So I like that they don't do that. Like I do definitely get a sense that a lot of this is playing out exactly the way Joker wants it to. So.
Right. Like even that awesome scene where it's Batman in the elevator and Joker's like, I could snap this cable right now and kill you, but you think I really want to do that? Like I want you to see what is going on here. Yeah. But yeah, that's some of my favorite writing in the game too, is Joker mocking the guards or his goons when you're fighting him. Like at some point he's like, I don't want to worry you boys, but I think he might be in there with you. And then there's another one.
Should I tell them you're coming? Oh, what would be the fun in that?
Yeah. There's another one where Joker's like screaming at his goons where he's like, Batman, he's in the middle of the room, the middle in clear view. Do you idiots need glasses? Just take him out, please. But he knows what he's doing. He's just having fun.
Yeah. He's just like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't drink blood. So don't worry about it.
Brendan Reagan submits a comment saying, why was Frank Bowles allowed anywhere near any of these inmates? His bio says he's been suspended twice for drinking on the job and he openly carries his flask around.
Yeah.
It's Gotham, baby. It's a weird time.
Not many people lining up for that job application. So,
right.
No, they do what they can.
We have to take a man who openly walks around with a flask.
Yeah. Was he the one in the beginning that is like, hey Batman, I know you're the foremost expert on Joker and capturing him and containing him, but we're gonna have to ask you to not come in here anymore. Like, just stay back there, away from all the action.
Yeah, I forget.
Or was it just another nameless? I think it was maybe a nameless guard. Even
I think it's just a dude.
Yeah. But it does remind me of that line later on. Let's see, somebody wrote in about it. If this is from John Skovic, who said, my favorite dumb line was early on when a pair of guards were standing in front of a locked tunnel and one says, don't worry, Batman, we've got this tunnel locked down. It's cool. And Batman in total deadpan replies, no, it's not cool. The Joker is still out there. Jones, can you do a Kevin Conroy? No, it's not cool.
There's no way.
Okay. All right. You'd have the best chance out of any of us.
I could fit, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. We should probably just get into these performances. They're too good here. Ryan in your line says, is it just me or is the voice acting from Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy even better in this game compared to the Batman animated series?
Oh.
Well,
I mean, because they've developed those characters for like they have
Right.
them locked in at this point. I mean, Kevin Conroy. I mean, for me, that is the voice I associate with Batman more than any other Batman. Period. You know,
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're able to kind of. I know some of the animated movies get a little more mature, but they're really able to go in a lot more mature direction with the content in this game versus what they normally work with in the cartoons.
Yep. Not only one, but 2 dead baby jokes during the first half of this game. I was like, oh, there's another one.
Gotta throw it in there.
Yeah, a lot of really, really dark material, a lot of stuff that the Joker says and does in this game that you can tell. And again, I keep falling back on Paul Dini, where I'm just like, boy, is he having a field day, where he's like, finally. Because it was neat as, I was in high school when I saw the animated series, and it was neat, like, even at that age, being like, okay, I see what you did there. I think, like, kids would be like, haha, Joker's getting beat up. Or I'm like, whoa, Batman almost killed him. Or like somebody would kind of be like pushed out of a helicopter off screen, or so, like every now and then things happened where I could tell the showrunners were like, we tried. We did the best we could with the sensors and everything. Or like maybe, like this is fire, but like pretend it's blood, stuff like that. So it was neat. That they could just super go for it, not only just in the direct cutscenes or conversations you're having, but like all the interviews, like all the Zaz stuff is like, creepy.
So remind me, like Mark Hamill specifically as Joker, how long, I know this is an impossible question, maybe not, how long had it been since he had voiced Joker? Like, does a lot of this performance come just from enthusiasm? Had it been like a huge gap before he was able to jump back in, or even for Kevin Conroy then?
No, because they did a bunch of movies. They did a bunch of extra stuff, so it hadn't been a while. I have a hot take here.
Yeah.
That I've said to Batman fans over the years, and they're like, "Are you insane?" It's like, hey, this is just my weird hot take, because Batman's very, very, very important to me. And I actually remember when I first found out about this, I was like, wow, Arkham Asylum, that's great. I wonder what cast they're going to get. And they're like, oh, they're getting Conroy and Hamill. And I was like, they're getting the whole animated series cast? And they're like, no, just Conroy and Hamill. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's weird. Like, it's weird when they like get to Gordon and he's like, hi, Gordon. It's like, hi, I'm Tom Kane. And it's like, wait, it's like,
I don't like Gordon and Sharp, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like their performances. They sound kind of like narrators.
It's Tom Kane, who sadly, actually right now, shout out to Tom Kane. He is a very, very talented, very prolific voice actor that is actually having a lot of health issues at the moment. And so nothing but love, the official voice of Yoda in the Clone Wars. Mwah, nothing but love for Tom Kane. But easy with the Tom Kane in this game. So Tom Kane is Sharp, who you meet right away. And then he's like, go downstairs and meet with Gordon. And then Gordon's like, hi, I'm Gordon. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, okay. And just like, if you know Tom Kane, like if you're like, it's okay, that's Tom. And then I'm like, all right, I found my first Amadeus Arkham thing. And it's like, I'm Amadeus Arkham. And I'm like, that's Tom Kane again. Like, and that's classic, VO, that you get somebody and it's like, oh, you're going to play. If you go to IMDb, it's like, this person played Riddler. Wally Winger played Riddler. And, guard number 2, cop number 2. Yeah. So they get them for stuff. Like there's like one time where Tom Kane's like, oi, I'm a guard. And they're like, no, Tom. Tom Kane.
So you wanted them to go all out, get the entire
that was Scarecrow. Back. Gordon turns into the guard later.
Right. Yes. He gets to play everybody. But so that was a little bit distracting for me, and it was weird. I think when Batman's got his back turned, I'm just like, I'm so into this because Conroy is, he's Batman for me. Like, he's just so quintessential. And I was a big, I loved Adam West growing up, and I loved like the Burton film, and so like there was so much that I enjoyed with Batman. And then animated series basically came along, and they were like, this is it. This is literally going to be your core center of Batman for the rest of your life. Like, everything else that comes along is just going to kind of sprinkle on top of this. But this is going to be the most in-depth, all stuff is going to come back. Even Scarecrow. The Scarecrow sequences are really great, but I'm like, I don't know, that animated series Scarecrow. Like, I always tend to go back. And so it was weird to me that they like cherry picked like 3 actors. Shout out to Arlene Sorkin, who does an amazing Harlequin. But they, just having them 3 surrounded by all of these other people, it made, because some of the more recent Batman movies I love, like Bruce Greenwood and like other people, RoboCop played Batman in the Dark Knight, 2-parter. Yeah, it's always fun having somebody else come in, or Arkham Origins having somebody else come in and give me a different take. So that's but I mean, it's like I could hear the two of them bicker for the rest of my life.
It's so good.
And it's a stupid thing to complain about, but I remember initially being like, weird that they're just grabbing them and not like, nobody else from the animated series.
That was strange. I went back and skimmed the old cover story, and it was strange they were fully upfront. Like, we got Paul Dini writing this baby. In fact, I guess I did an interview with him. It's like we had this section called Unlimited back then before the website had been through its many reboots. So it's completely lost to time, but it's like, go online to see an interview with Paul Dini.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh man, I want to hear that, but it's probably erased completely. But they fully were like, we got Paul Dini, it's great. And I was like, so does that mean you have Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill and like other animated series people? And they're like, well, I mean, we have some big things planned, and it would be weird if we didn't have, we're making a AAA game, and it'd be weird if we didn't have AAA voice talent. So they all but admitted they had them, but they were so upfront about Dini and so closed off about the voice cast.
That's interesting.
Maybe they still had some legal stuff to sign off on, but
I just always remember with Rocksteady being cagey, being so frustrated with myself because we did an interview on the Arkham Knight cover story trip with Stefan Hill and asked him, so the Joker is, spoiler for Arkham City, everybody. It's like, the Joker is dead, right? End of Arkham City, Joker is dead. And he looks right at me and he goes, in Arkham Knight, the Joker is dead. Dead. All right, moving on to the next question. Can't get more definitive than that. I was like, I wish I would have asked if he's in the game. That was the twist. Oh, I didn't think of that. It was right there. But yeah, there's something about the Joker, not something. I mean, everything in the world is about Mark Hamill's Joker and his laugh. And specifically, it's like the smoker's laugh. Like that weird thing. I don't know how much Mark Hamill has smoked. If he's never smoked a cigarette in his life, he's the greatest actor on earth. But there's something about just like that slight raspiness or like smoker's like throat that just
he has like 10 laughs. Like one of my favorite Joker laughs is just he just does this little Pee Wee Herman, just two little quick things that he'll add on a little punctuation to a line or something.
Right.
And he's so good. And that's the thing, like all my criticisms about like this cast member versus that. It's just like everyone I've ever seen play Joker has to pick a road they got to go down. They're like, all right, am I going to be spooky? Am I going to kind of get in your headspace? Am I going to be Cesar Romero? Like, what am I going to do? And Hamill's like, I'm going to do all of it. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to be funny. I'm going to be serious. I'm going to be, dramatic. I'm going to be cartoonish.
Terrifying.
I'm going to be terrifying. I'm going to be, like the fact that once we got into like Return of the Joker and some of like this later, like really, really, creepy Joker stuff, it still holds up. It's not like, oh no, you lose it because all I can think of is this cartoon I used to watch at, 3 p.m. on Fox. It's like, no, this guy, I believe this guy murders people.
Yeah.
No question.
Kyle.
Yeah. I don't know if, real quick before we get too far away. I don't know if you guys, when you were kids, I didn't really look at credits of cartoons. I didn't keep track of voice acting or people. But as a kid, when I watched the show all the time, I would never once was like, oh man, the Joker is played by Luke Skywalker. I
know.
Like,
it would have blown your mind.
No idea.
Yeah. I went and saw, what was the movie? I can't think of the movie. The Phantom.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Mask of the Phantasm, yeah.
Yeah, with my mom, and I remember after we were walking on the drive home, she's like, "Oh, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill plays the Joker," and I remember being like, "No, Mom, you're wrong.
You idiot!
Stay in your lane."
I know that, man. That's not Luke Skywalker, okay?
Well, for a while, he was really averse to being recorded doing it because he's like, I don't want people to see what I do when I perform this, when I play the Joker, because it is so different from, me
From Luke
being, doing my on-camera stuff.
Yeah. What do you think, Kyle, is number one Mark Hamill performance across everything? Voice acting, live action.
Well, I mean, it's the Joker.
Okay, but specific, like which game, which movie, which episode?
Oh man, I don't know. That's such a loaded question. I mean, there's a lot of really good animated series episodes of the Joker. Like there's one that doesn't even focus on Batman that much, where it's just about him terrorizing this random guy that just like insulted him accidentally one day.
Wow.
And there's stuff like that, which is so great. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the Joker for sure. I don't know. I don't have a specific. I don't think. I mean, I have been loving hearing him again in this. Like, it has been surprising me in its quality.
Yeah, I mean, just having played City and Knight before, I remember with Knight, I was like, well, that's the greatest Mark Hamill performance. Like, he's so fun in Arkham Knight. And now going back to this, like,
and he gets a lot of room to do fun stuff in Knight.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But you can't beat the energy, at least in the first half of this game. We'll see where it goes, but he's just so much fun every time he's talking.
Yeah, and like you're saying, it's great. You get to hear so much of him, even in the fights and the stalking, and even just wandering around. Just having him over the PA is just a brilliant move.
Yeah, for sure.
That tone, that like dun 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 dun. You're like, yeah, let's just turn up the volume.
Bizacut says the voice acting has been great, especially Mark Hamill. Unsurprisingly, there's one line that really took me out of the entire game. After beating up thugs to protect the janitor in the botanical gardens, Batman says, "I eat punks like these for breakfast." Were there any lines that took you out of the game as well? Yeah, that one about it's not cool that stood out to me, but I don't know. It's all fun. Like, yeah, Jones, as a voice acting expert, I'll just call you that. You're pretty darn close if you're not. What do you think about Kevin Conroy's performance? Is it just easy because it's so flat? What is deceptively tricky, do you think, about what Kevin Conroy's doing there?
Yeah, that's the tough thing about Batman is Batman does not have like a winning personality. Like it's kind of like he's got to have a flaw, right? Like there's got to be stuff that's wrong with him. And he's just not that diverse, which is great that you surround him with. I think that's the bummer about Gordon is like there was always like a wholesomeness to Gordon that's just kind of gone like in this game that like but that's like the saving grace is Oracle, who kind of comes in and reminds him kind of where he's been and what lessons he's learned and kind of roots him back in reality, because there is just kind of this monotone, a richness, but not like a like that was the bummer about the Batman Begins. The heck is that actor's name?
Christian Bale.
That was like Christian Bale's like he's like trying super hard, and I think what really sells Conroy's Batman for me is his Bruce Wayne is really great, which you don't get a lot of, but you do get Thomas. And he does Thomas. It's like, oh, I'm Batman's dad. Like Conroy does like Thomas Wayne as well. And it's just fun when you're like, oh man, he sounds sexy as hell just doing Bruce Wayne, So it's fun that he can drop that register. And I think the key of it is that he doesn't sound like he's trying to be badass. He doesn't sound like he's trying to scare you. I think Conroy and Hamill's best performance is Return of the Joker. That movie, it gives me chills every single time that I see it. And there's just this like big climactic moment where Joker just does about like the worst thing you can possibly imagine to Batman. And Batman grabs him by the neck and he says, "I will break you." And it's just like you're like, okay, that guy's not trying to do a cool voice. He is pissed. That is just a guy who's really mad at this other guy. And I think that can still really come across and not you thinking, like, oh, it's kind of like having like a roux for like a dish that you're making. It's like if you let that settle for long enough, you can take it in any direction. It's like as long as you have this as a baseline. Yeah. And that's the thing about Conroy. He just has this
truly the flour and butter of Batman actors.
That's true.
Lots of butter in that guy's voice for sure.
Wesley Barbary says, all I want to say is, oh my God, Batman's voice acting is nails on a chalkboard for me. So not for Wesley. Hey,
really?
Takes all kinds, I guess.
Check your sound settings.
Yeah, Crispy Lemur comes out the other way, saying Kevin Conroy's understated, stilted monotone was at first off-putting, but I ultimately came to appreciate it. It fits Batman's noirish detective roots, and more than any other Batman media I've seen, the performance shows how emotionally stunted Batman really is. As the alley flashback sequence highlighted, he's been left with nothing following the brutal killing of his parents, despite the assumption that, quote, he'll be fine, he's rich. Yeah, that part killed me. I did not know this flashback was in that game at all. Like, especially playing as young Bruce Wayne, just for that little walking section, that was so wild. And then, having them talk about just like, look, he's some rich kid, he'll be fine, whatever. It's such a good specific beat to hit for that scene.
I don't know why it's so affecting, but I really love that Batman like puts his hand up to the cowl whenever he talks. Like that, like just being to be able to be him in those moments and walk. Like I'm really big and nerdy about like role playing in those ways. Like I always like if I'm playing a character that's talking to another character who's not there, I always make a sense to like, okay, what are they going to do? Why, would they be walking while they're having this conversation, or would they now turn toward the exit? Or like I don't want to just run through this whole game. Like I want to account for like who they're talking to and why and what they're thinking.
Yeah.
And so like I was like super nerdy the first time I played through, where I'm just like, yes, I will. Walk very slowly every time I have to talk to somebody.
Tyler Kelsey has a bone to pick saying, hey, there's a pretty significant chunk of this half of the game after Gordon is captured, where in almost every conversation with Oracle, Batman refers to Jim Gordon by name and as Oracle's father, despite the fact that he keeps calling her by her code name. It's a small thing, but it cracked me up. Overall, I'm enjoying the game, but definitely seems like the writing's a bit weaker than we've come to expect from newer big budget games. Yeah, I just like the idea of Batman walking around like, Oracle, your father, Jim Gordon's in captivity. Look out, you fool.
It's been a long night. He's got like tears in his bat suit. His cape's falling apart,
That's an excellent point.
Ian Williams says he really likes Batman's little steps as he walks through doors. Seriously, watch him as he does a weird little shuffle every time. It's very funny. Oh. Yeah, Batman's a weird guy. Like even I was thinking about, it's weird that he made a suit and then made like very pronounced abs on his own suit. Like, right. It's just a weird move. It's not necessary.
They're intimidation abs.
That's latex going over. Those are his abs.
No way, really those are his abs. Right? Not a chance. So you're saying it's just so thin that it's just protruding through?
Would you want to keep committing a crime if you saw abs like that coming at you?
I mean, I could probably just have like a Post-it note on your stomach that says, jail is scary. It seems like there's a more effective way to get that across.
But I think that's one thing that is amazing about this game is that like he's so Gears of War linebackery. Like he's such a massive Batman, but yet he's still like so nimble. It's so easy to like walk around places and hide and shimmy across ledges. And like the fact that those two worlds exist in this game, I think is really impressive from like a gameplay standpoint. Yeah. You say like, yeah, he's really weird. And that again was weird to me that you had this very like square jawed, Bruce Wayne and Batman from the animated series. And now he's like, what's up? I'm on the 49ers. It's like, whoa, this isn't Kevin Conroy. What's happening? Like,
right.
You settle into it.
Yeah. Jesse Lynch submits a comment on Patreon asking, has Batman ever heard of a wrench or pliers? Every time he removes a grate with his fingernails, I cringe. That has to hurt.
Yeah.
That animation of him pushing his foot up against it, where it just kind of like takes a second, is so, I don't know. I will always remember it for some reason. I don't know why it sticks out so much.
Yeah. I like the touch that they have, like the loud, who cares who hears this animation? And they have like the quiet, like, and like push to the side when you're trying to be stealthy. I feel like the controls feel like so great almost all the time for every aspect of this game. But the one thing that would have been great to have an option for this time around is just to be like, okay, can I just press the button once to open up a grate now that we're here, and like to I don't know. I just want to press the button once. I just want it to I don't want to do any mashing anymore.
Yeah, throughout the entire trilogy, it's a lot of mashing. But yeah, Danger Zone is totally with you, saying, I forgot how incredibly satisfying Batman Arkham Asylum is to play. From running and grappling to countering and using bat gadgets, everything feels great. Even, they say, you're having to pry open vents. It feels satisfying, either ripping them off entirely or sneakily placing them to the side. Also, I love it when my two favorite podcast teams team up. Hello, Jones, Danger Zone says. He's waving. Hello. Danger Zone.
Hello.
Listening. Oh my God, Kevin Conroy, everybody. Yeah. Another robot submits a comment saying, I know this might be stupid, but I'm fixating on one thing in this game.
Yes.
And it's the Batmobile having a trunk. There is no way this Batmobile design can support a trunk of any consequence. What the hell could Batman keep in there other than exploding gel? Is it like a Mary Poppins carpet bag? Could he pull out a 3-piece living room set? And then Aaron T replies to that comment on Patreon saying, oh my God, I almost read about this exact thing. As soon as the scene played, I paused the game and wrote down, where the hell is the trunk on the Batmobile? Before spending a few minutes combing over every inch of it for a trunk or a line or anything, and there's nothing there. So if you remember, like he goes into the Batmobile, and then it's basically like the Tarantino shot of like the trunk opening from the inside. And he's like, ooh, gel, cool. Then it slams shut again, and then it's just the freaking Batmobile. Like there's no room for a trunk whatsoever. But what are you gonna do?
The proverbial trunk, it's like you would say the I don't know. It's like a part of the car. It doesn't necessarily, nothing in the Batmobile is where it typically should be, where you're used to things.
Right. It's a concept, I think. Yeah.
I could see the trunk in the front of the car because usually the driving pod is like way towards the back and there's so much front room.
Yeah, front heavy. That could be. Man, you ever have those weird waves of nostalgia? I think that's all our careers are based on at this point. But like, I was reading about, the strong rumors. I don't think they've confirmed it quite yet that Michael Keaton's going to be in the Flash movie. It's very exciting. But I was hit when I suddenly realized, like, oh my God, I bet they're going to have the old 1999 Batmobile back in. And I love Michael Keaton, but part of me is even more excited about like seeing my old toy up on the big screen again. Like, I just love the Batman design so much. And I love that in this one, it feels so close to that, 1989. And also animated series.
The Arkham Knight races are fantastic. The like Batman Returns Arkham Knight race where you like race through the Penguin's lair.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And you can get, there's like Batman 89 skins for Arkham Knight, right? Too. Like you can get that old Batmobile.
They're all ridiculously overpriced.
Oh, is that right?
Man, I think at this point now you can buy like every DLC ever created and the game and everything, and it's like
probably
$5-10 or something. I think I picked it up at some point, but
please.
There's all kinds of weird skins in there now. Like I don't think there were much, if any, in the first game, even now. But I think with City they started doing a bunch of crazy different skins that if I ever play through those two again, I'm definitely going to wear the weirdest costumes possible the whole time.
Yeah. Nobody wrote in, by the way. Please write in for the second discussion here about playing as the Joker on the PS3, because like the PS3 exclusive, you can play as the Joker just for like the challenge missions. Is that right?
Oh.
Yeah.
And that is in the version Bryan and I are playing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I want to know what that's like. I just want to see what those animations are.
It's pretty kooky. Another PlayStation exclusive. I don't know if you saw this or if anyone brought it up, but if you remember PlayStation Home,
oh no,
they created a Batcave themed virtual apartment for players to go and hang out in.
Excellent.
So dumb.
I forgot to go and look up on YouTube if anyone had captured footage of this, but it just reminded me like, oh my God, I completely forgot PlayStation Home existed.
Yeah. There's a couple weird spiritual successors to PlayStation Home that are out there now. And I want to dive into them at some point just to see what that world is like.
I love someone in Dreams made Home.
Yep.
Oh, I remember that.
That's great.
But one thing, that makes me reminds me the trunk issue speaks to something that I think is like almost like an insurmountable challenge. Is that like, the 60s TV show more than anything really plays up like, shark repellent, he always just has whatever he needs in any given situation. So it's like, how do we make Batman need something? Like, how do we deprive him of always having the perfect thing, when he should? And so I think they did a good job of like, well, it's in the Batmobile, but I can't get to the Batmobile. And then I have to use the Batmobile to get myself out of this fight. I just beat up the Joker and I'm taking him to Arkham. So like, I don't have the stuff on me because I don't think I'm going to need it right now. Cause like I'm surrounded by guys with guns. I think I'm fine. And so like, I don't think that was a flawless way they could achieve that, but I could definitely see the effort made to like, how can we kind of box Batman into a corner to have him, like, which some of the later games do much less gracefully, like Origins, where he's like, I can just summon lightning now. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, well, Batman really needs his line launcher. Where did he leave that? Oh, of course, let's have the Batwing crash through the wall to drop off one line launcher and then leave.
I know. I love that moment.
It's so absurd.
Playing it originally, I just remember being like, it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, they spent a lot of money to make this game, and I appreciate it.
Or like they made the game, then realized, oh crap, we should probably have the Batwing in there. Where do we put it? I don't know. Just have it deliver the line launcher and then fly away. Let's see. Oh, so at this point, roughly in the game, you get outside, which is awesome. I know we're all over the place chronology wise, but roughly speaking, and then you get that nice overlook of like, okay, this is what the island's going to be. You get a good shot of the moon, which is 1/4 the size of the sky. It's like the most, whenever I get frustrated about logic in the game, I just remember like, that's right. This is a world where the moon apparently is collapsing into the earth. It's the third day in Majora's Mask. But I love that. Like, I think it's easy to just vaguely remember this game even as just like, oh, that's the game where it's all just kind of like a Metroid game within the asylum. But it's like, no. It's the entire island. Like, all of these different buildings have so much unique personality. It's really surprising.
I love that they play with all that too. Like, they're not just a cool backdrop, but it's also can be part of the Riddler's puzzles. Like, I remember, I don't know if you guys got this one or not, but where it was like, yeah, the Wayne family something or other, and then you actually like use the zoom like first person to like see the Wayne skyscraper in the background and click a picture of it, and then that solves the puzzle. Like, they crammed clues and stuff everywhere and used everything completely top to bottom. Like, there's like no wasted art or textures or anything.
What do you guys think of Riddler trophies? Like, I love them. Like, I've always get all of them in every game, and I would hate for a future Batman game to not have them. I don't know if you guys are on the same page.
I love them, but don't. I definitely got to that point in Arkham Knight. Huber on our team was like, you didn't fight Riddler. And I'm like, no, dude, I put so many hours in that game. Like, I'm good at the end. No, I know. I've watched the footage. I know how it goes. And actually, the funny thing about Riddler is, like, when I was done with Arkham Knight, and like I still had that Riddler stuff to go, I was like, Riddler does make sense to be like the cockroach of the Rogues Gallery, where like if the nuclear Armageddon hit and they were all taken out, I bet Riddler would survive. I bet he would be the one that's left. And he makes a comment in Night where he's like, I am your real nemesis, and I'm like, you probably are, like, because he's the one that really I think can match Batman. I think he's the one that really gets to Batman. Like, Batman, is probably super confident most of the time, but I think he's still like, it was fun, like, going into a room and having the Riddler, like, having a riddle pop up and just being like, like, I'll deal with it later. I don't have time to have that guy yell at me.
I don't know. I particularly love his characterization too. Like, I love him, the overconfidence coupled with the insistence that he's like, well, that one was an easy one. Of course you're gonna get that one. You know what I mean? Like, pretending that, like, he's not impressed by Batman. And I love it when he calls in and just sort of berates Batman. I love how Batman just ignores him too. Like, Batman doesn't even talk to him, And we could maybe, I will certainly talk about getting all the Riddler trophies next week. I don't know if I will on this playthrough, but it's a fun conclusion, I think.
Oh, there's so many teases. There's so many bars you look through and you're like, there's like, they show to you. They're like, go get it. It's right there. Oh, you can't use the grappling hook to get up there. How are you gonna get it? Like,
It's almost like Batman like doesn't care, because it's like I guess I could use the grappling hook, but I'm the one that has to push him to deal with it. He's like, fine, I'll go get the Riddler trophy if you want me to.
I'll do it.
Play the game.
Yeah, I feel like the Riddler stuff in this game in particular is a lot more doable. Like, by the time it's Arkham Knight, there's just like so many to do, and you're in this gigantic city, so there's like so many more ways to like have question marks line up and like so many places to hide things. I think in the first game they strike a really nice balance. The one part I don't like about them is that, as great as the environments look and everything looks amazing, I spend 90% of my time in detective mode. Yeah. With just like boring like blue walls, and just because like I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss like a secret or a secret way, like or the next way to go, like the next grate to open. And it's kind of sad. Like, sometimes I'll have to like remember, like, okay, I have to turn this off now, just so I can like see what even this hallway looks like, how it's supposed to look.
I was noticing a lot of fights where they take you out of detective mode when you're done with the fight. Yeah. And so I think that there were a couple of moments maybe in the game where they knew that was going to happen, and they were like, just remember, shut that off.
Yeah. But like, what do you do if, on the developer's point of view, you make a tool that's too handy? How do you disincentivize the players from using it? It's a really tough design problem.
Yeah, I wonder if they could just highlight cool stuff and not, completely
that's probably
paint over everything else. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, just show the skeletons.
I love the skeletons though, because there's so many great moments where there's like traps, or somebody, like the first time there's like a present in the hallway and like there's actually a dude inside of it. Yeah. And you can see that. Like if you look, and zoom in, there's just like a skeleton like trapped inside. And so I like that they, realized from your okay, we can't just spawn somebody out of nowhere. We have to put them there, because you'll be able to see them even like miles away, like 5 stories up. You can like, those are all the dudes I beat up. They're still up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I know a mile down the road, there's a crazy man in the bathroom just like scratching up the toilet or something. Like he's gonna pop out.
I was just gonna mention, we were talking about those boxes, the teeth. Every time they show up, I just spam like the left trigger, and I feel like that scene from Lego Batman where he's just like keeps trying to throw him at the button, and eventually he gets it. He's like, first try. That's me every time I come across the teeth.
Yeah, Tom Blackburn. Tom Blackburn's wondering, where did the Joker get all those chattering teeth?
Oh man, that is so satisfying to get those. I don't know how they thought of that or anything, but just like smashing that button and just like having them split perfectly in half. Yeah. It feels great.
It is. Yeah. I think starting this game for the first time, really, I mean, or playing it for the first time, that is the big thing, is starting out. It's like, oh, it all feels so simple. You're not like, I'm not being pulled in 1,000 different directions, not worrying about my XP in a big way. It's just a little polite thing. And just like the little bit of, not busy work, but I guess just kind of detail in there is all you really need. Like, all right, Riddler trophies, here's a puzzle every once in a while, and then here's some chattering teeth just to try and shake it up so you're not just running down hallway after hallway. But it's like, I don't know how much more I need than that. Like, that's just a fine, focused game.
Yeah, and there's little quality of life stuff that at first I'm like, oh man, as I thought I forgot that you can just do a quick batarang to get those babies. I was like aiming at each one and being like, okay, I'm like, because you can still target them. And then like with the tapes too, like I thought I had to sit in the menu and listen to them until they were done, but you can close out and they keep playing unless Joker starts talking over the PA or something. Like they thought of a lot of really cool stuff to smooth things out.
Yeah, just keep you moving, you know?
Right. Wombology submits a comment on Patreon saying, most people cite BioShock when giving examples of the best audio logs from that era, but to me, the game takes it. Psychological evaluation is a simple and ingenious way to dig into some of the most interesting characters in fiction. There's so many moments where you expect them to go in one direction, only for it to get way darker while sounding genuine and staying true to the characters. They also highlight the flaws in the Doctor's methods and Warden Sharp's ability to manage his patients.
Also, maybe like the most genuinely contextualized versions of those, because doctors would record those conversations.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
In BioShock, why everyone keeps an audio journal, I have no idea.
Right. I always love in that first South Park RPG, The Stick of Truth, when you're in the alien ship and you find all those audio logs, and it's just Trey Parker like, why do I keep recording my stupid voice as I'm starving to death? JRN writes in saying, so many of Batman's enemies were abused as children. People, please treat your kids with kindness so they don't grow up to be supervillains. It's a nice reminder
especially
for
if you
everybody.
live in a dark city where it rains all the time.
Yep, it helps out.
Let me write this down real quick.
Spencer Bertine says, I've always seen Batman as a more grounded superhero, given he has no actual superpowers, just unlimited resources. But reading through the more niche supervillain stories in the character bios makes me raise my eyebrow. They consist of a calendar-obsessed man who only commits crimes on a major U.S. holiday, a rat catcher who threatens Gotham, oh, there he is, by controlling actual rats to carry out his villainy, and a man, quote, trained in the ways of murder by the gang of thugs who raised him. These are hilariously insane characters. Yeah, they're weird. That's Batman for you. I don't know. They've had a lot of time to brew up some weirdos. Matt Parson, on a quick note, character focus. He said this game might be the only other game other than Metal Gear that does something clever with death and restarting checkpoint/load scenes. The sheer variety of them made me want to kill myself with different environments just to see the different dialogue and all of them mocking Batman.
Yeah, I think related to that earlier conversation about Joker, like saying like it would be no fun to kill you in the elevator. Like when you happen to die and he's the one that kind of comes up to your body, it's like he's almost disappointed that you failed on such a minor task. He's like, I guess you guys can come finish him off. I'm really disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, for
Did
sure.
you guys run into that part where if you go into the wrong building, Harley's there, and she kind of like breaks the fourth wall a little bit, and she'll be like, "You're not supposed to be at this part yet. You have to come in a different way." I love that. Like, I love that moment of basically like acknowledging, like, no, you're in like a video game that you have to go along this specific path. You can't be here yet. This is not Joker's plan.
Well, I feel like a lot of that, and going through this game so many times, I think about Metal Gear Solid 1. And that kind of reminds me of that feeling, you know, the Joker's stringing you along, just like Liquid stringing you along in Metal Gear Solid 1. But I wasn't expecting, of all the games that I would think about while playing through this, to be like, God, this reminds me of the beautiful high heights of Metal Gear Solid 1. Just a self-contained place, you're in there with some weirdos and you're being strung along by a villain. It's just perfect.
And there's a lot you can miss when I watched this walkthrough online just to see like stuff that I picked up. There were a lot of points where like at a very clear moment in the story, the player would completely do like a 180 and go back to some area like the I don't know what it's called, like the visitor center, where they have like the television on top of like Joker's body. You can go back a bunch of times and he'll say something new and reference other things that just happened. And like, why would you think to like at any given moment to like, I'm totally going to do a detour and just go back to that point that I was before.
What is with that room? Why is it in first person? Is that coming up later?
I believe so.
Know.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really bizarre. I was expecting something to be in there other than just the Joker TV, but I did laugh when I walked in and Joker comes in over the intercom and he goes, "Batman, come in, sit down, take off your mask." Sean Mills says, in the section where you have to save the doctors, there's a room full of laughing gas with a henchman hanging from a rope in it. Before you can clear the room, you have to cut the rope and you can hear him screaming as he falls, then he immediately starts laughing. After you clear the gas, you can scan him with detective vision to see that he's alive, but it made me wonder how he got tied up there to begin with and how he survived the fall and the gas. Was he a guard, I guess? Just torture stuff?
Bait.
Yeah, he was bait the whole time.
I think he's a thug because there's like an earlier thing. You get an achievement, I think, for like saving one of the thugs that you can just like forget about.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you lift him up and drop him and then just punch him in the face.
So silly.
Yeah, that's the thing is Batman in this game. He does so much obviously deadly stuff. But like, oh, he didn't use a gun or a knife, so the guy probably is alive. Even though you snapped his elbow backward completely. Bone is probably sticking out of there.
Yeah, I love like
he got a heartbeat. He's fine.
Yeah. Joker has a line where he's like, if all of you thugs, if you fail me, then I'm gonna poison you all and kill you all. And he's like, hey, I might do it anyway. That sounds like fun. So like, I could totally see him stringing that guy up, and then like when Batman knocks him down and he like crashes through the wall, Joker's like, hey.
Right. Yeah, I like that because like
I didn't do that. Batman did.
Yeah, I threw the batarang and he fell down, and in my mind I'm like, oh, that guy's probably dead at this point. But then I love that Batman then has a line where he's like, I got to make sure that guy's okay later. Like they just like inserted some lines to make sure you knew that he would be fine. Yeah, I like this section of the game. I think this is controversial. I understand. I'm not the biggest fan of Metroidvanias. I love Metroid Prime. There are a couple that pop through for me, and I think I was worried going into this, like, is that going to fall into the Metroidvania trap? But I think maybe it gets more complex later on, but it feels very much like Metroidvania for babies at this point, which I appreciate as a big fat baby gamer. Like, I love just the simple stuff, like when you're going to find all the doctors, and it's like, we just put lines on the floor with the different colors. You just like follow it.
It's like northeast and west.
Yeah,
like,
we're very clear where you need to go here, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's really not a lot of the backtracking is either they tell you directly go back to this point, or it's just to like get more unlockables. It's not like, oh man, if you don't go like figure out that you need to backtrack to this area, like in a lot of Metroidvanias. Yeah. Then you're screwed and you're stuck forever.
I think a big thing for me is what annoys me every once in a while about that genre is just, I don't inherently think there's anything fun in just coming across a lot of doors I can't get into. I don't see the appeal in that. But it's like, but you can get into it later.
But it's so satisfying when you are able to open them. You
I understand that's the theory.
You can't just cut it off there.
But maybe that's what's separating this a little bit. Like I haven't hit too many of those roadblocks. I mean, every once in a while it's like the electric invisible wall, but that's about it. But it's not this constant barrage of everywhere you look.
The game talks to you a lot about what you don't have. Like when you look at stuff in detective mode, it'll be like, this is the thing you can hack. Can you hack things? No, you can't. So just move on. You're like, oh, okay. And then like you really like remember that stuff when you go back. And I think one thing that's satisfying about these two like kind of big outside areas is how much they change when you like go back through, how new enemies will be introduced, or there'll be some kind of like a cinematic event or something that reminds you like, okay, I'm on the right track, or like, oh, I remember coming out here and now the crazies are out, now the guys in straitjackets are now like all up in the towers, there's snipers now.
Yeah, the snipers was a big one. Yeah, for sure.
And so you get a sense that like that's another thing that I'm a sucker for is like your Dead Risings or like games that like really account for like how much time has passed. And so like it's fun to like, and I think all the Arkhams, obviously a lot of them like a lot longer and a lot more content than some of this stuff, but like you're still supposed to believe that all this did happen in one night. and so it's fun to like the playthrough that I found online. I got beat it in like almost 6 hours. So I was like, whoa, like, and then that's listening to all the conversations and like listening to thugs and stuff, but like really just doing the most important stuff. And so it's neat that like, yeah, you can conceptualize that this did happen, from like 9 p.m. to 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. Sure.
Yeah. Aaron T submits a comment on Patreon saying the MinnMates are running the asylum now. Thank you, Aaron. Anyways, there's a tiny piece of music that plays after Harley blows up the elevator and you're moving up the elevator shaft when you're following Bowles' whiskey trail. It's been my favorite part of the soundtrack so far. It's so perfectly in line with the tone of the game, and I found myself hanging out in this area just to listen to it. It's a single somber piano note and heavy strings against the plucked strings and the up-tempo brushes make for an interesting juxtaposition that I think captures the game's whimsical darkness. It's not grimdark, it's whimdark, says Aaron T. Yeah, that's good.
That's a good Batman description, actually. Whimsical darkness. I think that's like really wraps it up well.
Yeah, the music that got me in particular is right after this sequence, I believe. It's then when you're climbing up the elevator shaft and it's just like drums. Just drums like increasing the higher and higher you go. It's so good.
And the 89 Batman, like, Danny Elfman coming along and being like, hey, what's up? I'm going to get in your head for the rest of your life and you're not going to be able to shake. And so like every time like a new Batman thing comes along, I'm always like, all right, we'll see what this does. And I think they did a really good job in not necessarily making the score to this game like a Batman score. Like it's not a score of the character. I feel like it's like a score of Arkham. Like it's really the vibe of this incident that's happening and is new, but isn't like, here's our theme, like isn't really kind of like heavy handed. I think they did a really good job.
Yeah.
But it kind of worms its way into your ear without you really noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And I think the one music thing that stood out to me so far, especially was when you're in that kind of lab, there's all those like people going crazy and it's just almost completely silent except for like one, I think it's just like a sustained string note that's just like, you're just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's all going to go bad. Like you just constantly like tenses your shoulders and like, it's barely doing anything. It's kind of like a Jaws theme where it's just like using the minimal amount of things to like just stress you out and terrify you.
Yeah. Yeah. In the realm of Batman themes, I always think the most underrated Batman music that I've heard is the animated version of Dark Knight Returns. It has this main theme that is so freaking good. And I think it's the same composer who then went on to Origins, but whenever I need my Batman fix, it's always obviously 1989. Then I think Dark Knight Returns main theme is number 2 in there. Dunder, he says, hello, Warden Hanson and the inmates. Hello. I've played through the game several times over the last 11 years, and I still found the moment when Batman first encounters Scarecrow's fear toxin to be extremely effective and unnerving. The combination of the morgue setting with the body tray doors opening and closing, the audio intensifying and telling you to get out of there, and then Bruce's parents speaking to you from the body bags really took the game in an unexpected horror direction for a time. Also, Batman should really keep a gas mask in his utility belt. Yeah, look, he was in a rush, Dunder. I don't know what you want here, man.
Right.
He didn't grab that from the trunk. He left that behind.
Yeah, one of those weird little dialogue things that I'm like way too into Batman to like notice. I'm like, this probably doesn't mean anything, but I just love this character too much. But he opens the bag and sees his dad and says, father. But then he opens up the other bag and says, mom. And I'm like, ooh, that's a different, father. And then like, mom. It's like, having Batman be like, mom.
Man,
I didn't even do anything.
It's so weird not having played this game before. And just like, certain things get picked up. Like I knew Scarecrow was a big part of this game. I knew highlights. I still know things that are going to happen later on. Like I know the final boss and stuff like that. I had no idea about that flashback stuff. And I had no idea about his parents in the body bags talking. That was so f***ed up. That was insane.
I mean, how caught off guard by it all were you? Because like, I think maybe I knew Scarecrow was in the game, but it wasn't until I was like deep into it that I was like I think I realized it was fear toxin the same time Batman did.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's one of the coolest parts for me. Was like, it might be the second time when you're walking.
Yeah,
you like back through an area and there's like a weird like guest, and you open the door and it's like, you're now in Wayne Manor. I'm like, what? How did I get?
Yeah, and it's like raining indoors. It's so good.
Yeah, there's one moment too. I forget which toxin episode it's in. But I was coming through a door and there was like an L-shaped turn in front of me. And I was like, what's going on here? And I just checked the map and it's like, map not available. I was like, what do you mean map not available? Then I went around the corner and it's like infinite hallway. You know, I forget if it's the time where the bricks are falling off and there's bugs, but it's just so awesome. And just like that little hint that nothing's quite how you imagine it here, buddy. It's awesome. BeatenDownBrian.
Another fun thing. Sorry, just about detective
please.
mode. That's so great. Is Clayface has no skeleton. So
Yes.
just like fun little things. Yeah, like there's things where you can look into the game and see the sneakiness of what it's doing with the tools that they give you. So
it's super fun. BeatenDown912 says, when I got to the morgue for the first time, I played this game and it was late at night and dark and I had headphones on. By this point, the camera effects and other visual cues, you know something is weird, but I'm determined to scour that room for Riddler trophies, of course. The voices get louder and louder, and finally it's basically screaming in my headphones, get out of here. I actually yelled out loud in real life, okay! I go back and leave the door, and it brings me right back to the morgue. And it genuinely creeped me out and was totally unexpected in a game like this. I played a lot of horror games and used to tell my roommates when I did, in case a jump scare got me, I had to add Batman to that list. Shake my head. That was genuinely scary. Like nothing scarier than ghosts that are like trying to warn you or are scared. Like, oh, that's just the scariest thing. Also, I like that
the actual like rotating around Scarecrow stuff is like okay. Like it's neat to see the giant Scarecrow, but it's like there's a couple like maybe you get hung up on one area where you're just kind of waiting for him to rotate, you know? But like still overall, like I absolutely adore all those sequences in the game.
I think just playing that, it just reminded me of that basic idea of Rocksteady, you didn't need to do this. Like this is overkill in the most delightful way. Like talk about just production values that's not necessary. Like of all the things to cut, the huge Scarecrow segments should have been like first in that chopping block, but it's amazing that they got that to the finish line.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. And I think it stood out as like the first place I died and remembered, oh yeah, the villain taunts you, your dead body or whatever on the ground, you know, like I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that was in this game. Like it was a second wave of delight that washed over me after dying.
Yeah. Tommy Carver Chaplin asks, has any other game played with visual deception in quite the same way as Scarecrow sequences outside of the recent Spider-Man? Where they basically have their Scarecrow equivalent. The really subtle transitions of walking through gas without noticing and the world being gradually changed around you, like the dead Gordon, the red eyes, the whole morgue transition. Outside of the hide and seek part of the gameplay, I think these might actually be the biggest achievements of the game. Absolutely fascinating visual storytelling in a video game.
Yeah, agreed. Really great.
Yeah, I mean, and I like just the first time you encounter it, I believe, is just like when the hallway's just slightly Dutch angled and you're running through it. It's just that first instinct that something's off. Brady Easter asked, first, did anyone else notice Batman's eyes glowing red during the first Scarecrow bit, starting when Commissioner Gordon was dead? What's weird is that they weren't glowing red in the second Scarecrow bit, where you're walking down the hallway. I don't know. Weird one. Ian T. Clark says, this time, I'm going for that sweet platinum, baby. All I've got to do is beat the story on hard. You do not get the warning indicators when an enemy is attacking on hard mode. It took a little while to get the timing right with the counterattacks, but I eventually got into a good rhythm. That is until the boss fight with Bane. Boy, that was rough. I may have had to retry a dozen times before narrowly escaping with a sliver of health left. It does make me very nervous about some of the future boss fights.
My favorite part about the Bane fight is how Batman doesn't, because I'm guessing it would be an expensive animation, doesn't grab the pipe and like pull it out of his back. He just smacks it to the side and it gets on his back.
I love the reveal of like the wimpy little Bane. And then it's basically just like inflating him. We're like, I don't know if muscles and bones work that way, but sure, now he's huge. That's fun. It's so gross later on when the Joker uses that. The toxins on those two random guys, and you see like their spines like busting out. It's terrifying. Yeah.
I like that Bane actually pulls the pieces out of the wall that you can actually see like the block that he's not just the classic like dirt, you know.
Infinite spawning dirt.
Nice little detail.
Yeah.
Were you guys I mean, they did kind of use that same boss battle mechanic like a lot so far. I think it's at least 3 different boss fights where it's like a big guy that can throw stuff at you, that can charge at you, that you have to do the batarang dodge, right?
Yeah.
like 4 times, including Bane altogether, right? There's the one, then there's the group of 2, and then there's Bane. Yeah.
Yeah, Robert Cassidy writes in about that saying, I know a lot of people didn't like that you fight him so often and Bane-like enemies multiple times. And he's like, but I kind of like it because it becomes like a regular enemy type. You know, it's just a recurring thing. Just feels very video gamey, but it's not the point that I'm annoyed by it now. Mainly because I like the slow motion so much, and when they're charging you and you throw the batarang, it's always satisfying just to have that slow down.
It does feel great, and at least on the third try, you get the you get to hop on one of their backs and then attack the other guy.
It's so silly.
Yeah, it's nice.
I would hope that Batman enjoyed that a little bit, that it was kind of fun at some level.
Yeah, that was cool. He's also like 7'8" and weighs like 400 pounds. So like, it's nice to have something be bigger than him. It's nice to have something that, make Batman look small.
Yeah. He can only ride the T-Rex back in the Batcave that many times before he just gets sick of it.
Puts the giant penny in, like, all right, here we go.
He's using it like a barrel, like rolling on the top. But yeah, I like that after that fight then, when you get back outside and Bane comes busting out basically like Nemesis, and then he gets to say, no, Bane, this time I break you. And then the Batmobile like rams him into the water. And I'm sure that's the end of Bane.
Yep. You can't scan that one for the heartbeat.
Let's see. Should we talk about combat? We haven't really talked about it yet.
Let's do it.
It's very good.
It's good. Well, before we get to combat, let's talk core gameplay here. Tommy wrote in saying, I'm an enormous fan of the game, but I can't help but feel that I can't shake the feeling of being slightly hindered in this section of the game. Compared to City and especially Night, where you have a variety of bat tools at your disposal from the jump, I get kind of bored of the same inverted or silent takedowns being your 2 options for stealth or only having your cape or batarangs in combat. Yeah, what's it like to go back to this one?
I actually worried I worried that going back to this would like lower it on my personal ranking. Like it sits at the top for me because of how focused it is and smaller it is compared to the other games. And I was like, I wonder if when I revisit it now, if it'll drop. But it's almost been the opposite, where like I actually really appreciate the limitations, and it makes me really appreciate the game even more. And like it is now like cemented as my favorite Batman game. Even above Night and City and Origins and stuff like that for sure. So I actually kind of like it,
Yeah, I kind of had to refresh myself as like, okay, what counts as what kills actually exist in this first version of the game? But I was very pleased to see that the Bat Claw takedown is in full effect. That's my favorite one.
Just pulling them over to you?
Directly from Batman 89, from the Access Chemical. When Batman comes in and busts up Jack Napier's operation, and he finds that one goon and shoots the bat claw at him. He's like, "Oh!" and then he just yanks him over the edge. He's like, "Yeah!" Like that is so fun to do, and I never thought I could do that in a Batman game. And in this one, they don't bother like keeping him attached to a rope. Like in some of the later ones, you can pull him off and they will fall for a very long time and somehow still be alive. It's so fun to do, and it's way faster than a lot of the, like the, I'm going to slowly choke you out. Or, like I got to hop on you and then eventually punch you in the back of the head.
Get a huge wind up for this punch. Really enjoy it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm enjoying the combat a lot more than I was expecting going back to basics here. One thing that I don't think has aged particularly well is just like the upgrade menu. Just the UI there is like, it's just weird to have like that one horizontal strip. I feel like
a lot of them you haven't unlocked right away, so you're kind of going past a bunch of screens that don't say anything.
Yeah, it's just kind of inelegant, but not too bad for a game from 2009.
Yeah, you can't even do like, I want to go left and pop out on the right side. Like you have to be like, all the way over.
But UI wise, I think another unsung hero in the game is how cool the bats are. Just like having the bats fly across for all of the transitions when it's popped up a menu and stuff like that. It's just such a cool dynamic effect there.
Yeah, and for the final bad guy, the bats usually like kind of fly out. And then you also get that nice like when you take out the last guy, you get the slow motion shot, which is like a core thing in so many games now. I don't know if Batman was necessarily the first, but it's the first I remember. Mm-hmm. But then to sort of like piggyback on that, when you sort of recognize that language, they totally give you the option to skip it too, which is nice. It's like once the slow motion starts, you can just press a button and you're like, okay, all right, I get it. I killed the last guy. Let's move on.
I had the most satisfying slow motion finale. Maybe they set this up. I don't think so though, but it's in one of the medical areas, and I just like uppercutted this dude and he went flying. Then I'm like, all right, combat over. Then look over and he landed perfectly on a gurney right next to me. Like to the point that I'm like, was that set there? No, that actually just a weird coincidence. It's perfect.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Deep Space Trace asks, in your opinion, which aspect of Arkham Asylum has been more influential on subsequent video games? Detective mode or combat system? Having just finished ACL Valhalla and Cyberpunk 2077, it feels like detective mode is in everything now, but the combat system has been aped so many times too. Both are so great.
Yeah, I feel like detective mode has taken on a life of its own where we don't necessarily equate it to Batman.
Yeah.
But the moment that someone has an icon that you can press a button to counter, like I immediately go to Batman. I'm like, oh, it's got Batman combat in it. That means it'll be fun, you know?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
It was interesting having played so much Spider-Man, you know, and I was like, is that going to make me better at this game?
Yeah.
I wonder, you know, like, 'cause Spider-Man's so much faster. Like, there's definitely like a rhythm I feel, kind of like I'm playing an instrument when I would get into some of the crazier challenges and stuff like that in like the Arkham games. Whereas like some of the later, you know, arenas in Spider-Man on PS4, I was just like, it's just like, just get away. Like, let me just hide in the corner and try to get a sliver of my health back.
Yeah.
Batman does feel a little more elegant, I think. A little more choreographed and practiced,
Yeah, there's something, even though strangely enough, like I liked Batman the Animated Series as a kid, but I was much more into this Spider-Man cartoon for whatever reason. But that said, playing this game after playing a lot of Spider-Man, like it is just unquestionably so much cooler when you're flying in for the glide kick as Batman in slow motion versus like going for the first attack of Spider-Man. Like I always feel like a badass flying in as Batman, seeing that huge cape, just knowing like, oh, this guy does not know what's about to hit him. This is going to be amazing.
There's nothing he can possibly do to stop what's happening.
Exactly. John Skovic submits a comment saying the combat in this game and its sequels are actually still the best version of this style, he says. The biggest reason is that you can't just dodge out of your own animations to cancel them. In the Mordor games, this was especially egregious. You could realize halfway through your attack that you had made a mistake and dodge out of it to change your mind. Similarly, I love that the combo system ends your combo if you swing and hit nothing. In the Insomniac Spider-Man games, your combo multiplayer only ends if you get hit or if it times out, meaning you can just flail around at the air or miss attacks with no penalty. In Arkham, if you make a single mistake of swinging at the air, your combo's shattered. Yeah.
It really forces you to like feel the pace of the fight, you know, and almost to a point where you're just like, you're almost there with the combo and there's two guys across the room. And you're just like, come on, get over here.
I gotta keep this rolling. Yeah. White Mech says he's having
I definitely keep a much more like rhythm to it. I feel like I'm pressing the button for every individual punch, where in almost every other game, like I'm tapping to do,
for sure.
You know, activate punch flurry. But Batman, I'm like 1, 2, 3, counter, you know, I got the combo up, now I can do that attack, you know, that takes out the one guy permanently. Yeah, I love it. It's like maybe my favorite like video game combat, even over stuff like Devil May Cry and stuff like that. I really love it.
And always when there's like one guy left, like I never just punch him. I'm always like, come here. I got a good counter waiting for you. Just come over. It feels so good. And it's so Batman. It's such a Batman thing just to be like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have flashbacks to when I first played this game and I was like, didn't really understand the system. And I was like playing it like a normal game where I was just like mashing it way too much.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, I know I can do counters, but I'm not going to be deliberate in my button tapping. I'm just going to be like, oh, I want to punch you as fast as possible. But it's fun how the Arkham series and other games have kind of finally trained me to play it properly and just like destroying so hard when you just have a little bit of patience and planning. It feels so good, especially when you get some of those later combos.
Yeah. White Max says, I'm having trouble keeping the combo meter going past times 15. Is anybody else maxing out around there?
Yeah.
I haven't really like gone for it, but yeah, that's like the average.
Yeah, seems good.
I mean, at this point, there haven't really been enough enemies, really, because you're with them 5 is maybe the most you're fighting at once at this point.
Yeah, it's not as challenging as I remember. Maybe it's because I jumped into City and so I didn't have kind of that muscle memory from that going to that. But I remember having a really tough time with City in a lot of spots.
Yeah, and it really helps once you get that multiplier upgrade. I always wish, I was like, man, I should have just gotten this right away, but I can't help myself. I have to do all health in the first 4 upgrades.
Yep,
Like,
totally.
I need health. It's like, if you're going to let me upgrade health, I'm doing that.
Yeah, and I love that art of just like that weird black and white Batman, like, my armor's heavy now.
The art is interesting. The character profiles, you're like, who is this? Even Scarecrow, like, doesn't look anything like the Scarecrow in the game. You know, like it's interesting to see that there's other like the interpretations of those characters.
Yeah, I love it. It's just
like it, though.
It feels just some of the earliest concept art they had. And it was like, all right, let's just use that, even if it looks different. Yeah, where the Scarecrow design in the game, I love, but yeah, the concept art's also cool.
And overall, like the font, and we were talking about like the bat flurries and like the menus and stuff. It's interesting how that does kind of hold up, because it especially for like a Batman thing, because like usually I always associate like a very clean metallic, like the Batcave monitor, everything just like lots of simple blue glows, and like the yellow of his belt and stuff. So it's weird to see this kind of like grunge band, like Batman, everything's like rough edged, and and even just like
Guitar Hero start menu.
right. Even like Arkham itself, just like every room's dirty, just like, who works here? Come on. Like it still holds up. Like there's something kind of like satisfying about it that isn't silly or doesn't kind of pull me out of the world. Like it all kind of gels together.
Yeah. Quentin Cassidy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
Like I think maybe part of the disconnect between the in-game character models and some of that concept art is that DC's Wildstorm was somehow involved in the art of this game. And I don't know if they were just like, okay, you guys do all the concept art and then we'll handle the main character model creation. But I remember them kind of highlighted it when I first heard about the game, but like after it came out, it didn't seem like people were like bringing them up as much later on. I don't know.
I had no idea. It's interesting. Quentin Cassidy says, the game's combat is so influential, but there's one specific thing about it that frustrates me. It's the varying length of animations for the counters and special grab moves. You're trying to time everything, but sometimes the animations take longer than expected and it throws you off.
Get good.
Yeah. I
do love.
But I mean, you do kind of set yourself up. You get so into it, and then you just like, I'm going to do this cool thing to somebody, and then somebody will sneak up next to you. You got to be careful.
Yeah. I mean, I do love like when someone's knocked down on the ground, you walk over to them and crouch and hit Y on Xbox to like, do the big wind up punch that takes a while. And there's like a guy running at you. And it's like, I actually like that intensity of like, will I punch this guy quickly enough to counter that guy that's running up on me? And when the timing is really tight and you pull it off really well, that's like hugely satisfying.
Yeah. Jason Greer says, not just the combat itself, but the audio is great. The thwap sound on the successful hits is so satisfying, especially when it ramps up into multiple hits. Plus the joy of getting the timing right and just gliding around the area without gliding around the area, taking out multiple people. It's great. Also, how refreshing is it to play a game without inventory management? I'm chucking endless amounts of batarangs and it feels so good.
Yeah. The only super silly thing is that like I love it when you're like, I'll just like melee this guy and knock him out, and Batman does some backwards flip 15 yards across the room, like automatically, like he defies gravity times, but in a still satisfying way. But
yeah, now I like that inventory note. I think that just reminds me of just how simple and pure a lot of this game is. Like, especially because I've been playing, way too much Valheim recently, which eventually that game boils down to inventory management, the game. And so just going to this where it's like, hey, story focus, just grip it and rip it, keep on running. It's great. Adam Harris says, Batman seems to have his own Alexa. And no, I'm not talking about Oracle. When he first enters the Batcave, he has hidden on Arkham. He just yells out, on! And then the lights and computer boot up and he gets to work. Also, the atmosphere entering the Batcave and how he gets there is so good. Yeah, I had no idea there'd be a Batcave here. That was such a surprise.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fun. There's, I think it's Oracle. Is she the one that questions you where she's like, oh, the Batcave? How the hell did you pull that off? And he was just like, it's me.
That's his response like 4 or 5 times. Like there's a couple times in the game where people are like, why would they? And he's like, please.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise for me the first time I played it. And I remember it just being like, just the signifier of like, all right, we're full on absurd. Like, don't worry about it. You're just in the Batman world. Yeah, he built a Batcave. That's how prepared he is. Don't worry about it.
And he brought a lot of resources in, like one box at a time, doing the swoop down fly around into the cave. Like, does he have a bat crane to get that stuff in there? Yeah,
I also appreciate that navigation in the Batcave involves like literally just throwing away giant compartments just like into the ocean. Like, so if I want to cross here, I just got to get rid of these things.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you have to be able to glide across 20-foot gaps if you want to get to his awesome computer and stuff.
Right. He knows what he's doing. So here he does a little bit of hot science, figures out, okay, venom compounds, the Titan compound in particular. And so it turns out Joker paid Dr. Young under the alias of course, everybody's favorite Jack White. It's an old alias of Joker, but I love that that comes up. And the whole story with Dr. Young about how she's trying to block the funds because she's feeling guilty. And then he just, at least as far as we know now, the idea is Joker got frustrated with Dr. Young not helping him anymore. And then he's like, I'll just go to the asylum myself and actually get these things to create my army of Banes, basically.
I do like that bureaucracy kind of stuff for Joker that they rarely even touch on. You know, like I like the idea of figuring out how Joker orchestrated these things, and it involved like bank transfers with an employee that works there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. He has to use an alias. Doesn't want anybody tracking it back to Joker. He wants to keep his low profile.
Yeah, he's got to be like business Joker in that point. Like you can't just start on the same foot, like being absolutely crazy and talking about killing babies, you know, like right away when you're trying to do like an evil side deal with a normal citizen. So the fact that he had to kind of be like kind of together and present like a business proposal, like, hey, I can help you in this way. And like,
yeah, my interest rates are very reasonable if you just would want to give it a chance.
He had to write an email that was like, hey, just following up, you know, whenever you have
Jack White here.
Ben, I think as the one who hadn't played the game before.
Yeah.
And I had kind of forgotten, but it's pretty shocking that Dr. Young, you figure she's going to be a part of the whole game, and is just like unceremoniously blown up.
Wait,
like,
did I miss that?
game.
I guess maybe I didn't really care enough about her to even notice. Where was she blown up?
She's like Zaz has her like, and you have to like throw that battering at his face.
Right.
And then after she's like, oh, thank you. Well, I'm going to get the secret formula now from my safe.
That's
Everything
right.
will be fine.
That's right. Yeah, I guess it was a little bit surprising. I think I was more just surprised that like, wait, that one doctor I saved is going to be a part of the plot now? I thought they were all just like, a handful of forgettable doctors, move on. So I think I was more surprised on that end, but yeah.
There's a secret in that room actually that is not in Return to Arkham. That is, it's a blastable wall that doesn't show up on Detective Vision. And if you go in there, people didn't find it until much later, but it has an Arkham City tease in it.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not in the remake. Yeah,
they
wild.
They took it out of the remake
because like I had never actually seen it. I'd only seen it on like YouTube and stuff. So I looked up videos. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's this room, and I blew up like all over the wall, but it's not in Return to Arkham for whatever reason. So kind of
really weird.
I thought it was in the Arkham, the mansion. Is that where?
It's in Sharp's office, which is where the safe was and stuff. Unless I could totally have it wrong. Backstage pass or in the comments, like let me know, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, BeatenDownBrian here says that it's in Warden's office. Then he says the secret room was so well hidden that 6 months after release, no player had managed to find it, and Rocksteady ended up having to spill the beans about it themselves.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
wow, for this game, that's impressive. This game really beckons you to find stuff.
Yeah,
with like playing straight to Batman fans plus the Riddler trophies on top of that, plus
It's extra weird because it's not on the map, and then you have to put 3 explosives on the wall to get it to work. So just one, you'd blow it up and be like, okay, there's nothing here. Mm-hmm. You have to put 3 to get it to work.
That's so weird.
It's weird.
We actually I think when we were doing Arkham City, we did some, how we try to do online extras.
Yeah.
And Dan, like we talked to the creators and they told us where to go and how to find it. And Dan recorded a video on Dan Reichert, friend of MinnMax.
Yeah.
Recorded a video on how to get that secret map.
Oh, wait, was that like the first time they revealed it then? No, wouldn't have been.
They had, I think, just put it on like a podcast or something.
Oh, weird. Okay.
I might actually have the announcement text here. Okay, this is Rocksteady lead narrative designer Paul Crocker, who is now at 343. How he kept this secret hidden in the internet age. He says, while building Arkham Asylum, we placed a number of hooks into the game that tie into the Arkhamverse. In the beginning, we knew that Quincy was a bad... planned what his next move would be. The room obviously ties in Arkham City, but to be fair, we hit it pretty well. We did assume that it would be found eventually, and after following forum posts for 6 months or so, decided to announce it in the Game of the Year podcast.
Oh, funny.
Fans in the game have been amazing, and again, reading the forums, we see how much they value the efforts we put into creating the background stories for the various characters. Great to see all the posts and theories about the secret room once it was discovered. What I think people are really going to enjoy is not just how Arkham Asylum led to Arkham City, but also how the story in Arkham City sheds new light on the events you saw in Arkham Asylum.
There we go. Speaking of the Joker messing with people, I really loved the sequence where you're in the Arkham Mansion and there are those hostages behind the barrier that you can't get to. And Joker's like, yep, good luck. Can't save him this way. You got 2 minutes. Go. That was just perfect. I was running around, ran up, tried to blow the glass floor. Batman's like, it's reinforced, doesn't work. I was running around to all the books, running around everywhere trying to get it, and it turns out it was all just a big prank. And you couldn't have done anything, right? There's no way to get around that.
I don't
you don't remember this? Am I nuts?
Remember it was at the library?
The library, yeah.
Is it the chandelier you gotta drop? Or
you cut the chandelier later to break through the floor, but maybe there is some other way of doing this.
I feel like I saved them. Like I feel like that's why it's not standing out to me. I feel
I think you can hit the chandelier right away. I think I flew up there, and that's how I got over to get to him.
Yeah.
Oh, because I think later
like
on
you almost got the better version.
It was much more fun.
interesting.
I love the idea of just this 2-minute thing and Joker's just counting down, like getting more and more excited with each second. I was just so frustrated, like, I don't want to do this again. What am I supposed to do here? And then later on, I think I was stuck. And then the solution was to hit the chandelier. But yeah, that's weird that I guess you could do that early.
Yeah, you can do it during then, and then you get to the box and you're like, all right, I'm going to shut it down. And it's just like that dumb, like, punching glove that comes out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Sefton in the cover story talked about that moment. And he's like, that was our way of making fun of, timer sequences in games because they give you this arbitrary time to figure something out and you like have never been in this room before and you have no idea what you're doing. And it's just like, it was kind of a parody of that kind of sequences in games and
gotcha.
the way they could kind of mess with people.
Yeah.
I like the presence that Joker leaves behind because you get the sense that he knows, he sees you're going into a room and then like, he gets the present down or like has a minion do it. And like it's fun to get in Batman's head when it's like a classic Joker thing to do to like leave him balloons or leave him like a wrapped present or something. And you can just imagine Batman every time like, I gotta open this thing. Throws it back. He's like, I don't want to. I know it's gonna blow up or something, but like I gotta jump through this hoop, man. I gotta do what he tells me.
Well, that's the ultimate question. Doesn't Batman kind of like it deep down? I mean, the whole symbiotic relationship. That's right.
Do a little more in this intro. He just kind of lets, when that guy's like, no, sorry, Batman, we can't let you in here. It's like, Batman, I'm going in.
Yeah. Zachary Sweet says Batman's supposed to be so smart, yet his only option to get out of the clock tower is to throw a batarang and send the bell crashing to the floor. He obviously got into the clock tower somehow, and there's very clearly a hatch you could probably open. Some detective he is. And I'm sure Bruce Wayne could just write a check to have Arkham cover it. But come on, man, gotta be a little bit smoother next time, he says. Yeah, you gotta have the bell. That's like the whole 1989 thing.
It's a solid reference, man. Come on.
You need it.
It feels so good to do too.
It is very fun. Harrison Holt McHale says, there's a part in the penitentiary where Harley has set a trap with 2 civilians hanging over electrified water. The game is introducing you to the sequencer gadget at this point, which vibrates strongly to indicate the sweet spot. Harley takes note of it, and I can't believe I've never clocked this before, but she says, a girl could have hours of fun with a toy like that. My juvenile nerve could not take it, and I burst out laughing. I adore Harley Quinn in this game. Brilliant voice actor, brilliantly written. Harley Quinn, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let's just go right to it. Yeah. Riley here says, I didn't realize how much nostalgia I had for Arlene Sorkin's voice. I really miss her Harley. My partner came running into the room for her favorite scene when Harley is with the commissioner, and she says, this is me time. Yeah, I hadn't realized that this huge transition happened. It's always just like, Tara Strong, that's just Harley, right? But no, it's Arlene Sorkin, who apparently is married to Christopher Lloyd.
Wow.
Doc?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Can you imagine those two having a conversation? They probably have had a lot of conversations. But yeah.
Well, it's interesting. They actually follow the same Harley arc because Arlene plays her in this, and then Tara plays her later in the Arkham series, and they did the same thing in the animated series.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Tara's just always waiting for her chance to come in.
Yeah.
Tara Strong, who
doesn't
did
do enough
Batgirl
voice
and a lot
work.
of
It's
stuff.
good for her to get some more.
I know,
characters
finally
under her
getting a
belt.
gig.
Yeah. Brian, what'd you think of Harley in this game so far?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I loved hearing Arlene's voice again, after it's kind of been passed along. It's always like, we just happen to bring up the Muppet Show, the old ass, like the first episode ever, like on Disney Plus today to watch it. And it's like, oh, wow. It's crazy it's like the original, Kermit voice and like, hearing the originals where everything is based off of, that's kind of later had to be interpreted.
Copy of a copy of a copy.
It's cool it's just cool to hear that original voice.
Yeah, the voice acting's super fun.
Yeah, she's great. The outfit, even at the time, felt a little like too much, and especially now, it feels like it's so sexualized. Like the concept art for her is like the classic Harley look, which I actually like a lot more. You know what I mean? The sort of like the split red and black. But like, I mean, she's still such a fun character, though.
She's super fun, but yeah, I mean, that's the overwhelming thing is just like the idea of this character who's fully subservient to Joker and hangs on his every whim, and still every character in the game goes out of their way to call her a bitch, and she's dressed in the scantily clothes. Like, come on, Paul Dini. Like, I'm sure it's an overall culture thing at this point, but like, especially when you get to Arkham City and every character in the world just constantly screams that Catwoman is a bitch. But like in this game, like there's so many distinct references where it's like, does Paul Dini just think that being cool and edgy and dark is just characters calling Harley Quinn a bitch all the time? Like, how is this fun for anybody? It sucks.
It was, I did find it was strange how jarring that was. Like, at the time, and maybe it didn't stand out as much because I guess, it was a different time then. But even like when a good guy like Jim Gordon is like, oh, that crazy bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're supposed to be a nice guy. Like you're one of the good guys. Like I can see like the criminals and goons maybe saying that kind of stuff, but it's weird to hear the heroes saying it.
Yeah, it's so prevalent there. But I mean, also with Harley Quinn's design, but Poison Ivy, where she's just like, I'm just walking around in green underwear. Here's my big boobs, whatever.
And like cameras on like focusing on her butt and things like that.
Yeah, different era. But yeah, this, even just, when Batman gets like, oh, I need the party list from Joker. Oh, it's in your bra, Harley. Let me reach in and grab it. It's like, okay, we don't really know this. Anyways, this section was kind of a little bit frustrating, like just having the electricity on the floor and just having a lot of, okay, you can go this way. And then even that fight with like the 3 arenas where the electricity is like booting up and you got to move from one to the other. I think the only time in this game so far, it's like a little bit frustrating. I
actually liked the arena fight, but mostly because I liked when the electricity was coming on, how everyone, including the thugs, dropped everything to all climb together.
right.
So I like go. Batman and like 2 thugs like, hey, guys, pause. Let's jump over here and continue the fight over there. Like, I liked that was like kind of fun. Time out. Pause my combo. Let's just go over here.
You can pick back up, I promise.
I liked the concept of it, but it was a pain because at least initially I was going there. I was like, I know I need to climb this. I'm pressing the button. Why aren't you going up there, Batman? Usually the controls are so good, but for some reason in this one, you have to like be very like fully lined up and ready to climb up that thing. Otherwise you'll be like rolling against the wall and get electrocuted.
Yeah. The throws are fun in that fight. You can pick up guys and just buy, the first time you can get the opportunity to, and it's like, all right, there's one guy I don't have to deal with anymore.
Right.
Scream all the way down sometimes.
I like that crypto device, by the way. It always makes me laugh, like the animation that Batman has when he's trying to solve it. Because it's like, there's one where there's like 3 layers, and he's like, Joker really put a lot of encryption on here. And he's like, I've really got to work extra hard. And there's just him twiddling his stupid thumbs on his PSP, and he's like occasionally glancing around the room nervously. It's so silly.
He should like stick his tongue out the side of his mouth. Just like,
it's basically the same vibe, yeah. Nick Olson also wrote in for the section before saying, in a game full of moments, it feels just great. Is there anything better than countering a lunatic and suplexing them at Mach 10? Whenever they're running up, I was like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. And it's like, oh, no, it's just one hit for all these guys. They're just zerglings at this point, just scattered around the map. It's weird.
Yeah, to make them seem different, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Rogers says, loving the game so far. It's really scratching the Metroid Prime itch. Anyone else take longer than 6 hours or so to get the line launcher? I'm at about 10 hours due to my need to obsessively scan everything and find every collectible I'm able to.
Yeah, I definitely could have gotten through everything way faster. Like, I spent a lot of time. Like, there was definitely a limit where I was like, okay, I've got enough. I'm just going to move on.
Yeah.
But, I definitely spent way more time than I thought I would still going after all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm at like 7 hours for the stopping point here.
Yeah, and I think this game does a really good job of when you find these recordings of the inmates, in therapy, and when you call Oracle or when somebody tries to contact you, like they do a really good job of putting them in a spot where you get to kind of breathe in the scenery. And so, like, it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, I was searching this zone, so yeah, I'll listen to Zaz, complain about something for a little bit, sure.
Right.
So it's a game where it's very easy, and I think you were encouraged multiple times to stop and smell the roses. So
yeah,
you can extend that playtime.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of recordings too, like, there's so many cool layers in this game, and one of my favorites is the spirit of Arkham that keeps kind of going through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like you have this present day story, and then you have this story from the past where you're like, there's always just like a new like breadcrumb leading you down so many different paths, and it's fun to see that one develop over time. You're like, what's the deal with this guy?
Yeah, absolutely.
He seems so normal at first.
Mitchell O'Brien submits a comment saying, the biggest thing that I recently rediscovered while playing the game was how much it focuses on Batman being a detective. Every new story beat is brought about by him following a trail of some kind, and it never got tedious. Most people say Origins got the detective element best in the game, but I'd argue it's done best here. This is a straight up detective story, and I love it. Yeah, I think they're right.
I liked the Origins, the replaying mechanic. As an editor, I just God, that never gets old. Especially if it's like this truck crashed into this wall, and I'm just like forward, backward.
Yep. I need my Premiere hotkeys to really get the most out of this.
I had to write down this quote though because I was like, wait, what? When Gordon drops his pipe, he's like, wait a minute, that's Gordon's pipe, and he's like, he wouldn't have just dropped that. He left a clue. Gordon's smarter than he looks.
I thought he was a mentor. You had great respect for him.
Damn, Batman. Like, just to himself, he's like a classic imbecile. Finally got a win.
Yeah. He also, when you do finally find that pipe, he makes no effort to pick it up. He's just like,
really?
It's clearly important to Gordon. He's like, I'll just leave it here. I'm looking at it eventually.
I like that line.
Treasured heirloom.
When you're with Gordon outside for the first time, I think it is. I forget. But at some point, Gordon says the line where he's like, careful, I'm no rookie. And like, being a big Metal Gear fan, I'm like, that's Meryl's line. Is that intentional, or is that just a weird coincidence? I'm in the Metal Gear vein here. By the way, that beat of young Bruce Wayne talking to Gordon after his parents were killed, is that a common thing in the Batman myth of Gordon always kind of being on the receiving end of that initial trauma?
No, I think that's a thing. Well, because Begins stole that as well.
Right.
And I can't remember if that's in Begins or if that's in the third one where they show that happened. I think this is in Begins. Where they show him.
Yeah.
They got like young Gary Oldman. I'm actually not a fan of that because I like Gordon. I'm not a fan of Gordon like growing up in Gotham. I like Gordon coming in out of nowhere. Like I like Gordon like later. This is the year one Gordon where he just kind of like joins the force, and then everyone's like, "Wait, who is this guy?" And
right.
It's like, "Wait, I'm sorry, you're all assholes." I didn't know. Is that like a requirement? And so like then he's really a fish out of water, and then you have like politicians and cops and mobsters and everybody was like, "Gordon, you don't get it," and he's like, "No, you don't get it. I'm not going to play ball. Like I don't have to. Like I wasn't raised here."
And that's why he finds a kinship with Batman, because they're like the two, So I'm with you there. I don't love. I mean, it's nice. Like I think it's executed well here, but it is like in terms of my favorite Batman stories, I do prefer when he sort of comes in late. Yeah.
I have such stupid, concrete favorite Batman opinions about all sorts of dumb stuff. It's just so silly. That's me.
And Mitchell's note about Batman being the greatest detective. I like that line where you're fighting Joker's goons, of course. Then Joker says, "World's greatest detective, see if you can detect being punched in the face."
Yeah.
Justin Ray is referencing something Jones brought up earlier, saying the best quote in the game is the first Riddler audio log, where Riddler says, what walks on 4 legs, then 2 legs, then 3 legs? The Doctor says, the answer is man, of course. And Riddler says, close. But the answer to all 3 is a baby. It crawls around on 4 legs, but if you cut off its arms, it'll squirm around on 2. Then if you give it a crutch, it can hobble around on 3. And the Doctor says, that's horrible. How can you even joke about something like that? And Riddler says, easy. It's not my baby. There it is. Dead baby jokes are back in fashion.
A little insensitive to put a rim shot in there, but
yeah. It's like Paul Dini actually wrote that for the animated series, and like Fox was like, "No, dude, what are you? No," and he was like, "Oh, all right, I'll put that in a drawer. Maybe I'll get to that later."
I like that it implies too that Riddler is actually a pretty doting father to his real children.
Oh yeah.
Cole Helgerson just brought up that this game feels so Bioshocky in retrospect, with the audio logs and everything there, the sense of tone. But
just great environmental storytelling.
Yeah, a couple years after, I'm sure it was an inspiration for at some point in the development. Mm-hmm. Steven Sells really getting right to it, asking, how far do you move away from walls when using the explosive gel?
None.
Yeah.
I squat
when in my first
on the
playthrough,
gel.
I definitely dramatically walked away, but
Totally.
for this, I've just, I got a tight schedule. I got to get to this.
Yeah, once I realized it wasn't hurting me. Yeah.
He doesn't even fully rotate his torso. He's just like,
He keeps his eyes wide open as it's just concrete exploding. Can't do any wrong.
No blinking.
He puts his anti-explosion cream on in the morning. And he's like, all right.
I like that one section too. I think it's Dr. Young that you're saving, where you have to put it on the 2 walls and detonate them at once to take out the guards on either side of that little cell.
oh yeah, that's cool.
Philly
that's
Eat
great.
Steak says, a small touch that I really love is pressing R1 to throw a batarang instead of the trigger, because the camera will follow the batarang all the way to its target, and it's just fun to watch. That is true. Eric Merrill says, hello, Merrill and the inmates. Hello. Have you dived into the challenge rooms much? Has anybody done those, or we're saving it for part 2?
Sure, yeah, not on this run, but if we want to talk about part 2, happy to do that. It's a fun, complete package, smart thing for them to add in. Like usually, and it might just be the time period, because I think if we saw stuff like that now, we'd be like, oh, come on, way to pad your game, dev.
Right.
But like, I don't know, for this, it was because we were talking about the combo meter of like, I'm not, I get it up to about 15 and that's it. And it's like, well, that's what those rooms are for. And it's like, you can definitely not have too much of a good thing, because like it is fun combat, and you're just like, it's like a horde mode where you're just like, just keep, fodder, keep it coming.
Right.
I got grenades. I want to use them. Let's go.
So
and a lot of them you unlock throughout the course of the main story too. Like sometimes you'll get that Rilla trophy and it'll be like, you've got this extreme version of this challenge room.
Yeah. So we like getting very specific with the deepest dive. We like celebrating the specifics here. And Hunter S. Sachs is all about it. He leaves a comment on Patreon saying, let's talk fabric. I feel like I've heard time and time again how hard cloth/fabric can be. There's a moment where I grappled up to a ledge with a railing and I noticed how detailed the cape moved along the railing, accurately moving over geometry, let alone the animations during gliding or the stun attack. The amount of love and respect Rocksteady has for every ounce of this world is staggering. Oh, hello, Jones, he says. Yeah, the cape is fantastic. It's, the slow-mo finale of the combat, there's usually some jank somewhere in there, but the cape in particular, I think, is amazing throughout this game.
The ragdoll physics. Like,
I know. It's always the best.
God. Dude, I thought I read somewhere, or that they talked about it on some behind-the-scenes deal, but there's like a dude dedicated fully to just the cape animation. Like,
really?
Like there's a cape guy.
It, yeah.
God,
just to make it look great.
That's
all day at the office. He's I'm working. I'm just figuring it out.
I'm here for lunch, babe. I love
the degradation too.
That's
just
it.
that idea of it just being a night-long thing. I remember I had a friend who was playing it at the same time who insisted that part of the cowl was actually going away and he could see a tuft of Bruce Wayne's hair. And I was like, nah, you're full of it, man. I don't think that's a thing. I think he was just messing with it.
It was there. Leafeon here in the Backstage Pass watching us live. He says there's a classic story of the cape being developed by one programmer for 2 years. Over 700 animations and sound effects were made for it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's absurd. It's effective. Kevin Cooper says early on in the game, you go through a vent, and to the left there's a Riddler trophy, forward to progress, and to the right it seems empty. But when you go down it, there's a skull through some bars and a fan. It is completely uninteractable, but shout out to the developers for having some canon of an escape gone wrong, where some poor soul lost their head to a fan while sneaking through the vents. That's fun.
Cool.
Hey, Brian Vore. That's what I call some headcanon, baby. Gabe Brandolino says layers of history built on top of each other, modern facilities built into old architecture standing atop ancient catacombs, bones of the long dead seep from the collapsing stone. The island's graveyard is an utter mess of wildly uneven terrain filled with unkept caskets and tombstones. Arkham is a rotting slice of hell that I didn't think I appreciated in full until replaying this game now after originally doing it as a middle schooler. Yeah, well said, Gabe. Yeah, great sense of design in place for Arkham overall. I'm curious to see more of what it has to uncover here. I'm hoping the second half isn't too much backtracking, but I do know of one spoiler, which leads me to believe that there's going to be a little bit more backtracking in the second half here. And I was reminded of this spoiler, actually. Like, I went back and watched the old One Up crew, the One Up show crew, their spiritual successor, Co-op. I went back and watched their episode from 2009, right when this episode came out. And it was really fun, right when this game came out, because it was really fun just seeing them all have that same reaction of, who the hell is Rocksteady? Where did this come from? What is happening? But then they had a moment where they're like, and this part was crazy. And they showed something happening to the island. I was like, damn it. I wish I forgot about that again. Anyways, Knockin' Nick says, what's up with all the jars full of body parts scattered throughout the asylum? Does this concern anyone else? Yeah, it's a freaky island.
Sure.
I'm more weirded out. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry. Well, I just kept trying to scan him. I was like, this is probably something to do with Riddler. And it wasn't. I'm like, so they're just heads in a jar.
Yeah, I was more weirded out by like all of the x-rays everywhere where it's like different combinations where they just have like a skeleton of a hand coming out of a butt. I'm like, is this supposed to be like an upcoming villain or something? It's like there's so much of it. I don't think it's anything.
The weirdest part was that one dude that was like right after you get the descrambler, and it's right before you fight the crazy dudes. But there's like that one guy in that cell that's just like staring at you through the glass. And he's like got his arm and back all weird, and I'm just like, what's your problem, dude? Like, I don't think I think it's just like a way to see the crazy guys up close or something before they just run at you.
Oh yeah. God, yeah, I forgot about that. There's that one part too where you are removing the grate above you with the grappling hook, and you pull it down, and then like a crazy person jumps down on top of you from there. It's like there's some good effective jump scares with those guys. Sandshrew also says, or just says, period, there's a random guy with a unique face in a cell near where Clayface is locked up. His name is Luke Oliver, and you can see his name on Joker's party list. Apparently he won a contest to have his face rendered and appear in the game.
Oh, nice.
That's the guy I was just talking about. That's crazy. Well, perfect. I didn't know there was. I was like, there seems like there should be something more there. So that was cool to see.
Yeah.
Or cool to hear.
Brent Johnson says, in the spirit of being thorough with the small details, I just want to take a second to remember the odd changes to the flow of the first area that were present in the demo of this game that was released via Xbox Live at the time, one I played at least a dozen times. Some sections are outright skipped in the demo. After stopping Zaz, the vent leads you directly to the room filled with Joker gas, is instead shortened by a sudden flash of lightning and the screen going black, coming back into focus with you suddenly at the corridor where the game teaches you how to deal with enemies and guns. Other parts are shuffled around. For instance, you're then sent to the first real stealth section of the game, where you can find the body of Officer Bowles, but when you finish it, it cuts backward to something that should have already happened with Joker, showing off the first Venom-enhanced bad guy. That's fun. I wonder, is there any chance that demo is still downloadable?
No.
Okay.
But
who knows?
Yeah, I guess maybe you can see YouTube videos of it, but
yeah,
you can't even download or buy Arkham Origins digitally anymore. You have to like physically track down an Xbox 360 disc to play it.
Weird. Adam Mulaney writes in, he says, so happy to see you guys going through probably my favorite game of all time. My question is, why hasn't anyone made a Batman movie that follows the same basic plot as this game? Batman stranded on Arkham Island, has to defeat multiple foes. I feel like this would translate so well to the big screen, yet none of the movies have even come close to it. Yeah.
It's an Arkham Asylum movie, I think, based on the comic, right?
That sounds right. Did they make anything based on the games? I know they had comics based on the games, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I would imagine they would. I don't recall any of them, but
I mean, it's one of those situations where it's like, this is like the best version of it. Like, I personally wouldn't be interested in watching a movie version of this, but I mean, there are people who like Batman who don't play the Batman games, so maybe it would be cool. I don't know.
I mean, they could do kind of like a how Marvel's been doing with a lot of, their movies, like taking the seed of something that's been done in the comics or video games and kind of doing their own take on it. Like, there's been several like really cool Batman Arkham like comics miniseries or graphic novels, and they all have their own different take on it. So, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing it done. I wouldn't want to see like an exact copy of this plot, but an Arkham that's just made for movie, like I would totally be down with.
Yeah, and I think there were rumors that Matt Reeves as the Batman was going to be more Arkham inspired. And even now it still seems kind of, focusing on the Riddler and him just kind of going through the rogue gallery, but now it's like, oh no, it's just Long Halloween seems to be the loose basis for what they're doing with that new movie. So it kind of might have some of the effect. Yeah. By the way, Batman Assault on Arkham is a 2014 direct-to-video animated superhero film that's set in the Arkham world. I didn't watch that one. I bet it's all right. So there you go, Adam Mulaney. Any other details we didn't hit?
Oh my goodness.
I forgot you fight skeletons. That was weird.
Yeah. That was awesome. I remember that specifically because in the first episode of our show Trivia Tower, we had a round of trivia where it was super zoomed in on a screenshot and then slowly zoomed out. And I chose that screenshot. So it was super zoomed in on a skeleton. So everyone's like, Dark Souls. And then it zoomed down. It's like, no, turns out it was Arkham Asylum. It's a real tricky move.
Real sneaky there.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess if we're talking about really fine, small details.
Yeah.
I love the effect they have when you pause the game, that black and white comic style that pops up on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
That is great.
And I'm kind of surprised. I'm not aware of this, but I'm surprised they don't let you kind of turn that filter on maybe after you like beat the game or something and like play the whole game in that filter mode.
I just was thinking about, Paul Dini again and just kind of being fascinated about him, like, telling, a familiar, because he created Harlequin, like she was not in the comics, like he like created that character, so it was fun for him to kind of like repurpose these characters he was very familiar with and in some cases like made but at the same time it was like, oh, but he just made that for one game, and it's like, well, he probably wrote as much dialogue for this game as he wrote for at least a season of the animated series. Like there's if you like that's the one thing that I always remark going back to the animated series and rewatching is like those episodes just blink by. They're so fast. They're all just 20 minutes. And so it's neat for him to like really spend time, developing this. So it's like, I don't know if it would necessarily work as a movie. Like I kind of need it to be 6 to 8 hours. I kind of need it to, for you to be that exhausted by the end of it to really get the sense that like Batman has really been through the ringer.
Yeah, it'd be cool as like a TV series or something.
Yeah.
Short series.
Yeah.
Another tiny cool detail I like is Detective Vision. Batman gets the white eyes, like the classic comic book look. Like it's just a nice little touch.
Yeah, it is super cool. By the way, somebody in the Backstage Pass mentioned that when he has the red eyes with the first Scarecrow thing, that he's in detective mode when the toxin happens, I think was the idea. So maybe that's why it's like converting the red outline to the white to the red. But it could be. That could be. Yeah. Kyle, you got anything else?
No, I'm just eager to get back to it. It's funny. We decided to do this and like, we scheduled it out like 2 or 3 weeks or something. And I sent you like a screenshot of the line launcher like a few days later. And you're like, you're already there? I was like, I was like excited to replay it. And then like I couldn't stop once I started. So I can't wait to get back to it and play more. It has like, it's what I was worried that like my opinion of the game would drop, but it has only improved playing this game. Like I love it even more.
Yeah, I'm really,
just because it holds up so well.
For sure. I'm really, really, really enjoying it. And it makes me angry. But like, why didn't I play this back in 2009? What was I possibly doing? And then I remembered after playing for a couple hours, it makes me really nauseous. Some games hit something. I don't know what it is in this game, but certain games just make me sick to my stomach and like hot sweats. It's just a mess. But I loaded up on Dramamine.
Scary.
That's it. Yeah, I don't like bats. No, so now every time I play, I just got to pop a Dramamine. So I'm running pills, but I'm going to finish this sucker because I am amazed how much I'm enjoying it. Like there's so many times playing this where I was like, is this just like the perfect game? Is this just it? Like, is this about as good as it gets as far as gaming? And it also made me angry just thinking about the future of DC gaming. and thinking about like, God, imagine how happy people would be if Rocksteady announced that their next game was more of a spiritual successor to Arkham Asylum, just a self-contained, pretty simple little thing. I feel like the world would be rejoicing so much more than it's a living-ish game where you get to play as Charlie and King Shark. It's like, okay.
And we're not going to play it for like 2 years.
Right, right.
Hard to get excited right now for that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
It is definitely I'll play it, but I'm like, where if they had just said new single player Arkham universe game, I'd been like, well, that's my most anticipated game ever until that comes out,
Yeah. And I think the other thing that playing these made me think is just like, it's such an effective use of slow motion throughout this entire game. And I realized like, oh, both Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad won't be able to have that in the co-op or multiplayer. Like to lose that slow-mo effect is really going to change the way it feels to be Batman here. I guess he wouldn't be Batman either, but get the idea.
I mean, speaking of the way they, what they could have done and the game they ultimately are putting out there, God, how fascinating would it be to just have like a book or like a documentary on like, here's everything we tried to do from the moment we were done with Arkham Knight. Like, cause it's been so many years and I imagine like there's probably this push and pull. Like it sounded like they were completely done with the Batman universe when we were interviewing them for Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
And I wonder how far away they tried to go and kind of got pulled back, or like where was the push and pull with what to do with the license. And there's all that rumor stuff about doing a Superman game. Like, were they trying to crack that code for a while and then they're like, can't be done. It'd be so fascinating.
Yeah. So I talked to Adam Doherty in that interview that's on MinnMax's channel here, and who knows how much you can read into this, but he was the original director for Suicide Squad. And that was like back in 2016. And then he left, 2018 or something like that. So that helped confirm in my mind, like, okay, it's not like Suicide Squad was a last second replacement, at least lend some credence to the idea that they were working on something that was in the Suicide Squad universe for a while. Because there were rumors that, well, it seemed like Warner Brothers Montreal was trying to make a Suicide Squad game, and then it's like, so that just not work out. Then they handed it off to Rocksteady because, the story of Warner Brothers Montreal is fascinating. I mean, when we were up there, Bryan, it was such a weird studio. A lot of, former EA talent, Ubisoft talent went in there. The weirdest thing about that studio was that like half of it was a Lego studio that were developing Legends of Chima, which is a game that no one has ever talked about. And now you look at like every single person we talked to for the Arkham Origins cover story trip, they're all scattered to the wind. There's no one's left there.
It was a really unique project. And it's very, very strange that, the big super mega studio is the one that's like taking the baton from a tee up from the ending of an Origins game, right?
Yeah,
it's weird.
Hopefully they do plenty of interviews when they're promoting Suicide Squad and can kind of shed some light into how exactly that transition happened. But okay, hey, thank you so much to everybody who submitted a comment over at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you watched this far, thank you. We'd love to read your comments next time around, or if you're enjoying the format and you want to help support us, we'd always appreciate it if you supported us. And by doing that, unlock the podcast version of this, future Deepest Dives, previous Deepest Dives, like on Final Fantasy VII Remake, Last of Us Part 2, Help Me Out Halo, Combat Evolved, Kyle, Chrono Trigger, Outer Worlds, Animal Crossing, New Horizon. What's that?
Miles Morales.
Did you do Miles Morales?
We did Miles Morales, with a friend of the show, Kyle Bossman. That wonderful guy. A bunch of other fun Deepest Dives, like the interviews, all that fun stuff. So we'd appreciate the support, and we'd love to see your comments next time around. Also, support us in any tier. You can play Trivia Tower on Monday, and you can impress old Danny O'Dwyer. He will go like, oh, this person knows their video games. So we'd love to see you jump in there and compete in video game trivia. Ask us if you have any questions about how that works. Brandon Jones.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for giving me an excuse to play this game again, man. It's just as big of a Batman fan as I am, it's just one of those I probably wouldn't make time for, which is with our jobs. We're always checking out new stuff. And this was like, I think like you like emailed me and you're like, would you like to be on the bat? I was like, yep.
I was stunned.
Let's lock that in.
Yeah, it feels
it's funny,
like
like the other day telling my wife, like, excuse me, honey, I have to go play Batman Arkham Asylum. I'm like,
yeah, it feels like letting you talk about Batman. It's like in The Incredibles when they're talking to Dash, like, you can run as fast as you can. Talk about Batman as much as you want, man. It's the deepest dive. But congratulations on everything over there at Easy Allies. Congratulations on being the moderator for the podcast, all that fun stuff. Where would you like to point people?
Patreon.com/EasyAllies, or you can go to EasyAllies.com. If you're anywhere around the world, you can see our schedule. We'll tune into your schedule, and get over to that Hitman 3 and play some MinnMax levels. And then this weekend, get over there and play some Easy Allies levels.
That's right.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Isn't it awesome of IO to reach out for that whole thing? It was so easy. You know, it's tricky to design those things, but just like, all right, we'll send you our ideas a couple days before they go in. It's wild.
I was way too stressed out putting those together. We were definitely like, these have got to be good. What should we do? What kind of premises we should do? We like had notes and then we threw those out and then did something else. Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, it's really fun to go back and watch like Let's Plays of that. It's just like, it's very, 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 very easy on our end, but it's just like that sliver of like, oh, I bet this is as fun as it is in some ways for developers to watch people play their own game. It's really entertaining to watch them try to navigate through it.
It was a treat chatting with you, other two gentlemen. Don't get a chance to do that, so.
Yeah,
I enjoyed your opinions about this game. I like.
Discord here.
Yeah.
Cool. Bryan, would you like to plug your Twitter handle or anything, man?
Yeah, Bryan_Vor. Sometimes I'm on stuff talking about nerdy stuff here at MinnMax. You've probably seen a couple of those, so that's always fun to do. And it's always fun to talk games, especially in quarantine and not really being in a day-to-day role in the gaming industry. It's good to be able to like get all this stuff out, and then my fiance doesn't have to hear me talk about anything in this realm.
But hardly
just get it all out. Go to the basement and just barf it all out.
Perfect. We'll do more barfing next week. Please look forward to our discussion. It'll be up on our YouTube channel next week, so stay tuned because there's still a lot more Batman Arkham Asylum to talk about. But thanks so much for your support, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Hang on, Kyle, does Batman have like a way of saying goodbye or anything? There it is! Bye, everybody! You can help support independent games media by subscribing to MinnMax on YouTube here, or you can support us over on Patreon to unlock exclusive shows like MinnMax Council. You can call into our podcast, you can put a picture of your choice on every MinnMax video, or you could have us plug your passion project on the MinnMax Show podcast. MinnMax is a Patreon about games, friends, and getting better, and we exist because of you. Any help telling a friend's appreciated.